Hold it right there. Don't move.
Complete Man in Black, the series. Get ready to flash your memory back to the late 90s because we are talking about Men in Black, the animated series, running from 1997 to 2001. The show gave us 4 seasons of glossy sci-fi action, a testament to the fact that the MIB franchise was much more than a Will Smith smile. This animated series, taking place in an alternate reality, didn't go baby talk on its audience. It featured a genuinely hip, atmospheric animation aesthetic and brought us classic villains such as the body horror classic Agent Alpha. Seriously, that dude was terrorizing nightmare fuel. It's generally regarded as the superior continuation of the spirit of the first movie over the actual sequels, and it solidified its place as one of the greatest movie-to-TV adaptations. It also added to the lore and even provided Agent L with a much-needed field role. Put on your shades, because this one's a classic. If you appreciate our efforts in bringing you this content, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more.
Why did you have to go and do that?
Season 1, Episode 1, The Long Goodbye Syndrome. The show begins with Agent J, newly arrived from the NYPD, starting work as a man in black. K, his colleague, doesn't take long to put him through his paces. J is asked about alien taxonomy, such as whether he can differentiate between a Rayonisian schizoid and an Aborian schizoid. K hands out the first major lesson: nothing is what it seems. And he demonstrates it through the hot sheets, those zany tabloids that never lie. Take, for instance, the stories about alien shellfish. That's not seafood gossip. That's Skraldians, aqua-loving aliens from planet Skrull, whose population explosion once plugged half of New York's water mains. I love the way MIB brings far-fetched tabloid yarns to life. The Skraldians are among the first to show the old hive mind theory. Jay is soon confronted by one. Going against K's advice, he employs the screeching cricket on a Skraldian. Big mistake. The blast brands J for life, and K gives the chilling discovery: Skraldians are telepathically connected. And now 4 billion assassins are homing in on J's genetic material. Wherever he goes, they'll find him. K also tells J that it's the last suit he'll ever wear. Jay freaks out and wants to know why they can't just nuke the Skraldian homeworld, but Kay reminds him that MIB only has legal jurisdiction on Earth. Classic rookie blunder, listening to counsel, then paying the price in the worst possible way. The big cricket joke from the movie's first gets enormous here in the cartoon. Chiefs learn about Jay's dilemma. Zed concedes the problem is breaking Kay's heart, but protocol is to have another rookie on standby, just in case. Even Agent L gets involved to take up Kay's new partner role. A distress call, however, brings the agents to a seafood restaurant where the Arquillian ambassador is in exile. The complex is Skraldian-free, though, and Jay finds himself anticipating his inevitable murder. He even wonders whether it might happen as soon as today. Jay gets his chance when the Skraldian arrives. Instead of killing it, he freezes it with an icer, an upgrade that shows he's learning. Then Kay adds the final touch. The twins rigged a way to get the Skraldians to forget all about Jay and turn the beef on KJ is over the moon. But he's told by Kay to take a grievance day and drive the LTD. And then the punchline: this entire setup was just an exercise, maybe with schizoids added in, staged by one of Kay's old acquaintances. Only MIB would subject their newbie to a life-or-death joke just to discipline him. This episode also provides a glimpse into Kay having powerful friends in his debt, which does come into play later in the series. And naturally, the episode does finish with Kay reminding us of one thing that never changes in the MIB world: I can't let you drive the LTD.
You couldn't have done that first?
Season 1, Episode 2, The Buzzard Syndrome. Kay and Jay, poorly nicknamed Sparky, respond to a suspicious alien landing. Jay is again denied Zed's approval and the restoration of his true name, Slick. They get to the location to find Agent L taping it off with a tape cord. Suddenly, Trebler of the Safarian Retrieval Unit appears out of nowhere, claiming he's after Zeron, a so-called zero-crime alien that's famous for devouring dozens of other aliens, and even a blooper. Trebler pulls out a warrant and suggests a cooperative venture, but Kay instantly knows there's something amiss. The ship was impounded with paramilitary gear, not MIB standards. Jay's enthusiasm to impress ends up in another first-year level debacle of chaos. And, naturally, even the scariest-sounding alien names, such as Zeron, will most probably be attached to hilariously insignificant crimes for humour purposes. Jay then sees a little dog, Clarence, with a child, Timmy, and, assuming that Clarence is Zeron, nearly takes him away in custody. Trebler thanks Jay, informing Kay that he is hurt, and Jay passes on the dog. Kay returns shortly, and the surprise is revealed. Trebler is really Sergeant Rock, or Mad Bounty Hunter Buzzard. Jay has an epiphany of having released the innocent Zeron into the hands of a mercenary who literally flayed or stuffed him. Remorseful, Jay orders Zeron to save him. Seeing Jay perpetually flustered and blaming himself is funny and touching. Buzzard is the last illustration of the MIB rule. Never trust anyone who shows up with a badge. Jay realizes, in the course of the rescue, that Zeron has his sharp knives with him. Realizing little alien is deadly, he plays with his food like a kitten. Jay calls on Buzzard to assist him, realizing he's thoroughly outgunned. Kay pretends to cover as he comes up with a more intelligent assault. Zeron's innocuous appearance was psychological warfare to make him catchable even more. I adore how MIB turns even lethal aliens so cute and quirky. Simultaneously, it's utterly insane genius. The Zeron meteors are a classic but effective retro MIB bit of work. J and K kill Zeron with the meteors. To stop Buzzard from getting away, Kay plants a tiny explosive device on his spaceship, and he hangs in space for eternity. Timmy is disarmed and designated an honorary MIB agent. Jay departs with a lesson learned, a bad conscience, and more respect for the strategic thinking of Kay. This episode perfectly mixes rookie errors, cosmic chaos, and masterminding. It's suspenseful, humorous, and side-splitting all at once. MIB gets to reward small humans like Timmy, reminding us that in a world so full of peril, there can be space for heart.
Now, check me out of here. Now.
Season 1, Episode 3, The Irritable Bow Wow Syndrome. Episode 3 starts with Jay trying and failing at small talk with Kay. He notes that Kay is Spock's twin, since MIB agents erase their histories. Their new assignment takes them to a massive crash landing site, where they discover burned flesh and immediately recognize the culprit, a Charox, a spacefaring terrorist who travels on asteroids. The agents track down leads to Jeb's pawn shop on a tip from Bobo, a worm tipster, regarding a loud noise. Jebs initially attempts to sell illegal firearms and Charox skin, but is forced to confess that the Charox had been looking for something particular. Kay identifies the object as a little dog named Frank. A canine delivery of confidential information? Only MIB would make a standard rescue mission into cosmic mayhem. Frank, as a dog, is a wink to MIB custom. Disguised aliens in plain sight is an ancient cliché. Frank is no ordinary dog. He's an alien who presents himself as a few years older than he looks and has had dealings with Kay for decades. He has a titanium alloy plating for protection, and when subjected to a medical scan, Jay finds that Frank expels a void density core, a machine that behaves like a miniature black hole. Originally intended as a garbage device, the core was banned because it can be used for terror. Things get worse when it automatically activates with less than an hour before Manhattan is attacked. Frank follows the Charox to the Chrysler building without knowing that they're actually going there, as the source of the non-violent rail circus, the same force that the Charox are fighting against. Seeing Jay stumble and get it through is half the charm. Greenhorn error combined with heroism. The shutdown code is classic MYB, last minute and tense. At the end of the pandemonium, Jay orders Frank to reveal his real self. Frank playfully replies that he's much uglier than Cindy Crawford, but in fact, he's a little adorable alien, demonstrating that he had been kidding all along. The program ends with anticipation, laughter, and the warm discovery that not all danger is as horrific as it appears. I enjoy how MIB is able to maintain such a light tone, even in doomsday situations. Frank's joke is straight-up comic relief. Frank's gag at his appearance pertains to a running theme. In MIB, nothing is ever what it appears to be. Menace and comedy exist in slick balance. Season 1, Episode 4, The Alpha Syndrome. Now we see Kay and Jay investigating the mugging of Mr. Sabin, a centillion, an alien race that possesses 2 super-efficient hearts. As long as he possesses 1 heart, he's virtually immortal. One of his hearts was surgically taken out by a smooth operator with sinister motives. Jebs, owner of the pawn shop, is a short-term suspect but was quickly cleared. Jay is shown Agent A, who explains to him that he and Kay were once co-workers. Agent A hands Jay a virtual selective memory projector device set for KK reacts with anger, telling Jay to reject everything you ever taught me. And we realize this case is not as black and white as it initially seemed. That line especially does it for me. It illustrates that Kay is more closely connected to this mystery than it seems, and suggests there's a rich backstory. Virtual selective memory projectors are MIB's version of mind hacks, a brilliant science fiction way of getting into character history. Inquisitive, Jay tries to hack into MIB's confidential files with L's assistance. He learns that the heart stolen is related to Alpha, a person Kay refers to as the first MIB, who created the institution but almost destroyed it. Kay learns that the Alpha he knew passed away 20 years earlier. And then Alpha appears before him, promising that he spent 20 years wandering the cosmos and surgically attaching himself to extraterrestrial bodies. His plan? To use the centillion heart to live forever. Kay immediately tries to stop him, destroying the pillaged heart in the process. Alpha's obsession with immortality is an archetypal villain power, exaggerated, dangerous, and sickeningly fun to watch. Alpha's updates satirize the sci-fi cliché of the self-enhancing bad guy with otherworldly technology for maximum yield. Disobedient to Zed's order for the whole agency to infiltrate, Kay decides to infiltrate alone. He takes Jay along on his own volition. Jay employs the virtual selective memory projector to access Kay's memories. What he discovers is that Alpha is using an illegal MIB device called the Cosmic Integrator. If threatened, Alpha reveals that Kay left him to perish 20 years ago and was forced to survive with the Integrator. Alpha intends to steal another centillion heart from one of the thousands on Earth. Jay realizes that he must alert Kay. Centillions emit a gas that liquefies human lungs. The risks are gigantic here. This isn't a heart theft, it's planet-sized danger with archetypal MIB zaniness. Centillion biology, such as the lung-dissolving gas, is a superb combination of science fiction danger and gothic humor. Kay, coming to the realization that Alpha is no longer fully human, is willing to release the lethal gas to kill him. Jay gets taken hostage, and Alpha taunts Kay by calling Jay expendable, but Kay has none of that. Later, he kills Alpha by throwing something heavy. Later, Zed informs Jay he's happy he's sticking with Kay, in showing respect for the rookie's improvement. Alpha's backstory weaves together personal grudges, cosmic malevolence, and MIB's own zaniness, and therefore is a season standout. Season 1, Episode 5, The Undercover Syndrome. Jay and Kay prepare for Durnal, the Tarkin minister, key to an interplanetary trade deal. Things break down when a minister's bodyguard is attacked by an invisible assassin wearing a stealth suit. Jay, by mistake, sprays Durnal with a liquid that Tarkans abhor and incurs his wrath. As an apology, Kay offers to substitute Jay with a temporary bodyguard service. Jay must go undercover as one of the Tarkins, since only the official translator is the human allowed at the conference. Radio contact is banned because the Tarkins are extremely sensitive to alien radiation. Jay's oops moments always lead to some of the most laugh-out-loud, tense rookie gaffes at their finest. The Tarkin minister blends MYB's trademark mix of diplomacy and absurd alien rules. While in a Tarkin skin suit, Jay encounters Vonda, a blind Rosanian translator, who picks out her mates on the basis of smell. She is immediately smitten. Kay also uses the stealth suit to alert Jay to poisoning the minister. Durnal, in his protective mode, insists Jay taste his food. Jay tastes the cashew flavour that Kay promises is really chrysaline, a poison found among the Tarkins, but safe for humans. Elle also warns Jay away from quirky alien technology, like bed springs that extract spines, adding to slapstick peril. The silly gadgets MIB uses to hurl at Jay render his new agent assignments both humorous and painful. Chrysaline poisoning is a well-acted sci-fi plot element, demonstrating MIB's fascination with the biology of aliens for humorous potential. Suspicious, Durnal schedules the signing ceremony at midnight. Jay manipulates Durnal into making the first move in hopes of framing the killer. While this, Jay is trying to set up a date with Vonda in his old hood on Mason Street. Kay interrupts him, informing him that there is no Mason Street in Harlem, which instantly establishes that the woman Jay was going to meet is not the actual Vonda. Jay unknowingly courted a killer. Jay's charm shines perfectly here, blending spy thrills, space opera, and romantic comedy. MIB often employs mistaken identity as a plot device to blend comedy and tension, and this episode does so to perfection. Kay appears and dispatches the killer, showing that she had taken on Vonda's appearance. So, Vonda does make a visit to Jay later, again drawn to him by scent, but Jay is polite in refusing her invitation to dine. The mission accomplished, the minister is safe, the trade agreement goes through, and Jay's undercover operation, while disruptive, averted catastrophe. The combination of stealth, mistaken identity, and extraterrestrial politics makes this one of the show's best episodes. Jay earns every bit of his rookie hero moniker here. MIB's stealth suits, killer impersonations, and tense diplomacy mix action, comedy, and sci-fi perfectly. Season 1, Episode 6, The Neuralizer Syndrome. Kay and Jay are on a stakeout following chop shoppers, extraterrestrial burglars who steal flying spacecraft for their components. Jay makes a personal attempt at conversation with Kay, inquiring about his family. Kay abruptly informs him that his father died. When Jay tries to phone a former buddy, Tamara, Kay intercepts it, informing him that MIB agents can't go home again ever. While pursuing a pilfered Zenteca 2000, Jay inadvertently shoots Kay's neuralizer. Classic newbie faux pas. The last thing in the world you'd ever desire is a faulty neuralizer, particularly when it zaps your own partner. Neuralizers are MIB's most recognizable devices, used to wipe out memories, though they never seem to discharge at the most convenient moment. Kay immediately experiences decades of amnesia and thinks that he's an adolescent named Slim. It's 1984 in his mind, and he needs to get his father's 1969 Mustang home or face the drill sergeant's car. Kay/Slim has no idea what the World Trade Center is. Zed demands the return of Kay, but gets commandeered by Kay/Slim, who steals the MIB LTD and dunks it into the river. Jay and L track the Chop Shop's secret ship near Yankee Stadium. Kay's discovery as a clumsy teenager is ridiculous but funny. MIB does actually get the farce of anarchy right. The amnesia gimmick is an MIB sure bet that tries to mix in humour and life and death circumstances. He displays atypical combat abilities, and through Jay and L's assistance, the hold-up men are conquered, tossed into the East River. More obsessed with going home, K/Slim, visits his father, Pop, to find that Pop hasn't seen him in years. Jay realizes K made up the lie about his father's death to make their separation easier when K was reassigned as an agent. Pop is informed by K/Slim that he's leaving to work with an organization, MIB. The father's reveal does lend some true emotional depth to K's character. MIB is not a game. K's fibbing about his father does give us a little insight into the personal sacrifices made by MIB agents. Elle assures them they have no option but to re-neuralize K. Rehabilitated, K returns to his stoic, taciturn nature. He inquires about Pop's message, responding, "Things aren't always what they seem." A reminder that even MIB's most by-the-book agents have human depths. Jay learns a second lesson. There lies behind K's frigid demeanor a man with a very human heart. This episode is the ideal mix of action, comedy, and dramatic emotion. It's the ideal mix for MIB fans. The mix of memory loss, car chases, and emotional character development is an MIB standard recipe. Episode 6 concludes with K back to normal, Jay a little smarter, and the chop shopper's disabled, an ideal mix of comedy, action, and heartwarming moments that made this episode stand out.
They got sucked into the...
Season 1, Episode 7, The Symbiote Syndrome. It starts with K being infected with millicrons, an entire alien culture living inside him in the form of a virus. The millicrons cause fever and severe congestion, but removal is ruled to be an act of genocide. Meanwhile, Jay is assigned a simple escort mission, retrieving a teenage symbiote named Zanzaranus, but he'd prefer to be called Troy. The symbiote needs a host body, and Jay has to return in 20 hours, or Troy will completely assimilate him. Only MIB would make a routine escort mission a possible body-snatching horror. Symbiotes are a great sci-fi trope, allowing the show to play with new powers and comedic body dynamics. Troy at once identifies with Jay, welcoming him as his new ride and demanding a side trip to Hollywood. All goes awry, however, when a bounty hunter, Buzzard, ambushes their train for the symbiote. The symbiotic bond grants Jay awesome powers, such as molecular strength and electromagnetic fields that interfere with electronics. This makes Jay a walking sci-fi superhero, at least for a time, to his surprise and bewilderment. Watching Jay gain powers is fun and thrilling. Rookie uncovers cosmic powers, classic MIB style. Troy's powers spoof ancient superhero cliches, quite literally bestowing a civilian with deadly powers in an over-the-top movie manner. As the shuttle of Jay gets derailed, K is not going to be left behind and wants to join in on the mission. Jay discovers Troy has been jamming MIB communications and fleeing from his mom. Jay sacrifices Troy to save himself, keeping his life ahead of the life of the symbiote. Soon after, Jay finds out he can't operate without Buzzard and retrieves Troy. Troy recombines with Jay again, improving his abilities even more. Jay and Troy's plight is standard MIB farce, life and death tension in unconventional relationships. The return of the Buzzard also illustrates MIB's predictable theme: never to be completely conquered bad guys, constant tension, and humor. Buzzard captures Jay and Troy, cackling with glee that Jay's body will be of no use in a matter of minutes after it's incorporated. Q, K, and L arriving, K healed completely now that the millicrons have been purged from her system. K kills off Buzzard, demonstrating that even the most resilient of villains are no match for MIB's best agents. Next, Troy informs Jay that symbiotes have the ability to heal on their own, so Jay was never in real jeopardy. Liberated, Troy notices the empty space within Jay's body, created by the millicrons, and asks for a ride to Hollywood, providing Jay with a 20-hour buffer before he will require another host. This is an important episode for combining humor, suspense, and bizarre alien physiology, with Jay walking the thin line and succeeding in his signature suave manner. It is the smooth integration of body-swapping sci-fi cliches, melodramatic bad guys, and MIB's trademark sense of humor, finding just the right mix of peril and guffaws. Season 1, Episode 8, The Inanimate Syndrome. It begins with Jay and Kay at the site of a peculiar alien arrival, where they find an odd object, a chair. But it's no ordinary chair, it's an Ekovs, a cruel, inanimate alien who can alter its molecules to be anything upon touch. To assist Agent Alan, whose ex-partner Philomar was kidnapped by the Ekovs, is temporarily teamed up with KJ, naturally resentful and jealous, sensing that Kay is disproportionately agitated by the presence of Alan. Jay's jealousy is goofy old rookie versus enigmatic partner tension that never disappoints. The Ekovs impersonation is a sci-fi shapeshifter reference with an MIB spin. It is non-humanoid, inanimate. Jay and Agent U discover that the Ekovs interviewed Frank the alien dog as a source of MIB information. Kay and Alan connect with their past encounters as Kay remembers his titanium flax uniform being cut with a Blevonite's blade, and thus showing he is not immortal. Jay starts to suspect that Alan may indeed be an alien herself, joking that she may have tentacles. Elle and Jay also discover the Ekovs' true motive: to steal the Kanani 6000, an intergalactic super missile that MIB stole in the 70s and which can blow up an entire planet. Only MIB would come up with a chair as the show's bad guy. It's absurd and brilliant at the same time. The Kanani 6000 is a nice nod to old-school sci-fi weapon cliché, indicative of MIB's sense of mixing history with intergalactic peril. Kay and Alan drive to the vault holding the missile, Jay trying to follow in the LTD. Naturally, he crashes, once again demonstrating Kay's superior driving ability. The Ekovs duplicate the missile, establishing a deadly standoff. Kay has Jay, a no good with numbers, enter the disarm code 27345 manually via the manual override inside the vault. Kay executes the plan and tests, getting away with fooling the Ekovs into staging a dud missile to get it under MIB protective custody. Jay's crash after Kay coolly manages the crisis is MIB, comedy of the highest order, bumbling incompetence versus cool competence. Manual override code is a sneaky acknowledgement of spies, sci-fi clichés, pairing tension and goofiness in classic MIB style. As Alan departs Earth, insisting that she'll be in suspended animation for the journey to and from, Kay bids her farewell with a soft smile. Jay sees Kay almost smiling at her, the briefest flash of emotion from the otherwise reserved agent. Kay again instructs Jay to look after their partner, showing that even the most minor of actions means something amidst the MIB mayhem. I love the way MIB weaves suspenseful action together with quiet personal moments. The Inanimate receives MIB's blend of suspense, humour and heart in getting us to see that even a chameleon chair can provide a memorable villain. Season 1, Episode 9, The Psychic Link Syndrome. In this episode, we see Kay and Jay on the case of a bizarre attack on a human cab driver. The victim's essence, or bodily fluids, have been drained away, but he survives. As they investigate, the perpetrator bites Jay, an Elsidian by the name of Phorbus. Elsidians are very social aliens who exchange essence by biting and establish a psychic bond between host and victim. Jay soon discovers the effect. Whatever happens to him, happens to me. That's a MIB twist classic. All of a sudden, Jay's got a psychic twin he didn't order. The Elsidian race combines horror and sci-fi comedy, as their physical bond adds high stakes, offbeat tension. Phorbus is recognized as an antisocial, psychotic Elsidian who assaults individuals he believes are stealing his essence, i.e. each photographer. Jay displays psychosis-like behavior, while Kay spurns El's transfusion, asserting he alone possesses the ability to finish Phorbus, showing his tough, unyielding resolve. I love how MIB makes Kay's stoicism both frustrating and heroic. He's willing to take psychic revenge on himself to spare others. Psychic bonds are a great sci-fi trope that MIB employs here to make Jay a reluctant co-conspirator to danger as well as to comedy. The emergency comes to new heights as Phorbus kidnaps Elle, placing her in the greatest danger. He tries to intimidate Kay into releasing him by pointing out that everything that Kay does will harm Jay since the two are physically bonded. Jay strikes back at once by pretending to be an undercover cop in order to mislead Phorbus. He mentions that the lens cap stayed on Phorbus's camera, proving that his identity wasn't hijacked and making the psychic attack ineffective, allowing time for the team to react. Jay's quick thinking here shows why he is such a great rookie. Bedlam embraces creative improvisation. Lens caps as story tools, generic MIB, comedy dramatic alien threat, foiled by a dull human device. Then there's a transfusion, sending all essences back to their rightful owners. Phorbus is confined to the MIB mental ward, keeping the danger contained. The encounter deepens J and K's bond, as the episode weighs suspense, humor, and emotion without enduring damage. It showcases MIB's ability to match gargantuan alien threats with offbeat creative solutions. While psychic relationships are a sci-fi staple, MIB saves it by contrasting psychic chaos with snappy dialogue and loopholes well utilized, making it extremely entertaining. Season 1, Episode 10, The Head Trip Syndrome. Episode 10 starts with K and J probing a spaceship where astronauts are under level 3 comas caused by vermax of Friley implanted in their brain cells. The vermax live on chemicals emitted during dreaming and emit a narcotic to keep their victims stuck in nice dreams, not able to wake up. J, being the beginner that he is, gets stung and enters a coma caused by a dream too. Oh, woe is J. Only MIB could make a brain parasite a danger and a side-splittingly hilarious nightmare scenario. Vermax are essentially dream leeches. Inception meets tiny freeloading aliens. Elle suggests using the illegal Mr. Tog device to enter J's dream and wake him. Elle feels the threat. Anything that happens to me in there happens out here. In Jay's dream, she exists in a fantasy world where K and Z are outrageously complementary, and Jay is flanked by women who worship him, the stereotypical over-the-top MIB dream sequence. Elle finds it hard to convince Jay that what's out here is not real, but the vermax has him drunk on dreamy euphoria, so it's not easy. The Dream World FX are MIB craziness in its best form, comedy, absurdity and suspense all rolled into one. Mind invasion storylines are a science fiction staple, but MIB puts its own spin on the mix of humor and tension. The dream has a false Elle confront the real Elle, attempting to mislead Jay into halting her. Elle discovers that the vermax are giving the dream to Jay, and he's manipulating reality unwittingly within it. She decides that the only means of waking him is to give her life in the dream. Jay jolts awake as Elle dies. The vermax releases Jay. Elle escapes, demonstrating MIB's mastery of high-stakes suspense with a dash of humor. The sacrificial tension makes you believe that Elle is never returning, but MIB always rescues their heroes in style. The Mr. Tog Mind Infiltrator is one of the prohibited techs, embodying MIB's mischievous, rule-breaking tools that are deadly and funny. When he wakes up, Jay applies what he learned in the dream to revive the astronauts. K remains unemotional as always, but Jay is left guessing about the absurd dream destruction he endured. The episode balances danger, sci-fi fantasy, and the usual MIB humor to prove that even a dream sequence can be threatened. I enjoy how MIB makes something so ethereal as dreams become a full-fledged action comedy plot. Vermax and dream hijacking sequences show MIB's talent for making mundane sci-fi ideas into ridiculously entertaining escapades. Season 1, Episode 11, The Big Sleep Syndrome. We see K and J finding MIB agents, encased in a supply quadrant. Thankfully, some of the agents are safeguarded inside a vault so that an entire catastrophe does not occur. The brains of the operation behind the freeze is celebrity crook Dr. Lupo, a sleazy bad guy who escaped with the help of a genetically precise clone to fake his escape. His cohorts are creepy bug Gene and telekinetic behemoth Brainard. Lupo taunts that he has taken over the mainframe and will initiate the lockdown mechanism in 90 minutes, a doomsday clock for our protagonists. Lupo's showmanship and evil slyness are classic MIB humor, like a science fiction heavy out of a comic book. Genetically duplicated duplicates are an old science fiction cliche. MIB puts a spin on it by making the duplicate have an independent mind. It becomes personal when Lupo's duplicate kidnaps Zed. Lupo summons an agent to Zed's office and tells him that he will laser surgery K if anyone gets in his way. Jay comes running in as if to surrender, but Lupo is not deceived. Jay is no ordinary agent. He's one of his synthetic men. There is panic as only Worms Bob and his dark-hued companion are remaining among the unfrozen agents, with K and J. Realizing Lupo plans to kill the clone on release day, the duplicate joins the fight, shocking everyone. Seeing Jay attempt to juggle combat, deception, and surrender simultaneously is tense and funny at the same time, straight out of an MIB rookie in action scene. Having the worms on as a gag is also a pleasant touchback to that common MIB theme of underestimated agents working behind the scenes to save the day. Kay sends Jay and the two worms to face Lupo. In their meeting, Jay notices something important. Lupo's Denafian sonar tube is reversed. His sharp eyes are valuable to K and J as they assist in setting up that at times it literally is a matter of life and death for one to be able to see in the age of technology frenzy in the MIBS. Along with Zed, K murders Lupo and deploys the prisoners into the Protonian Gulag, an intergalactic maximum security penitentiary. Jay earns his junior moniker, a playful reference to the budding reputation he is building at the agency for his courage and sarcasm. Jay becoming junior is just such a great payoff. It's ridiculous, but satisfying to his rookie arc. Denafian sonar tubes are old MIB gear, high-tech, overkill, and employed in surprising ways to create humor and tension. Meanwhile, the worms, smart enough to slither away from the fight, are encountered later, after ingesting the special coffee that they have been protecting. Classic MIB humor. A character, no matter the circumstances, manages to get a snack, even in the middle of an incredibly high-stakes battle. Lupo's complicated plot and heroism of the unsuspecting clone are typical of MIB's classic blend of sci-fi action and slapstick humor, with every show a loose cannon.
6, 5, 4, 3.
Season 1, Episode 12, The I Married an Alien Syndrome. Episode 12 begins with K and J at the Bian Return, a huge event where aliens present new technology to MYB. Jay comes out of the gate with one highly menacing-looking gadget, the cerebral accelerator, a taboo piece of equipment that gets his brain operating at up to 78.9% capacity. Sounds great, doesn't it? But with a caveat: if he runs it continuously for over 22 hours, his head will become Mount St. Helens. To say he's under pressure would be putting it mildly. It is only MIB who can turn overclocking your brain into a metaphorical ticking time bomb, dangerous and side-splitting simultaneously. The brain accelerator is a nod to classic retro-futuristic brain-enhancing gadgets, which usually have the backfire effect in comedic or catastrophic contexts. With his super intellect in play, Jay starts having flashbacks of Agents T and D, Agents K, who didn't exist. Using his super bright mind, Jay speculates that some kind of entity is going back in time, deleting the true MIB agents from history with the Finney time theorem. Basically, one event reverberates through history, wiping out memories and timelines, and only Jay's super intelligent mind can keep out-of-time facts. MIB time travel plot twists are notoriously complicated, but Jay's panicked brain keeps them witty and amusing. The Finney time theorem is an ingenious science fiction contrivance for managing paradoxes without clogging the machinery and keeping things interesting and blackly humorous. The killer is discovered: Edmund Clark Moffat, a human conspiracy theorist who swiped an illicit coronite RD-27 time leaper from Jebs. Moffat holds MIB responsible for initiating the first contact and is employing time travel to wipe out the past of the agency. Jay realizes that Moffat is eliminating surviving original agents, especially Q and K. To prevent him, J and K go back to when K was inducted into MIB. There, Moffat encounters the young K, and a suspenseful, high-stakes chain of actions follows. I love how MIB blends time travel with classic mentor versus newbie clashes, an action puzzle disguised as sci-fi. The time-reversing villain is a sci-fi genre cliché, but MIB adds a dash of humor by having Jay's brain actually labor over time to see everything. In the climactic conclusion, current-day K rescues his past self and kills Moffat, who had interred lost agents in a temporal plane. Overloading of Jay's brain ceases when he is returned to the future, minus the cerebral accelerator. The timeline is corrected, the agency preserved, and Jay's head is whole, barely. Jay's surviving overclocking of the brain is ridiculous and gratifying. Classic MIB heroism excess. The series has MIB's combination of time travel, forbidden technology, and comedic suspense, proving that even the most complex sci-fi plots can be funny and entertaining. Season 1, Episode 13, The Take No Prisoners Syndrome. Episode 13 starts off with Earth setting record-high temperatures. The perpetrator, a massive Blastulin spacecraft, the size of Pluto, is hovering just beyond the galaxy. Blastulins live in extremely hot conditions at around 700 degrees, and they siphon planetary resources as a sport. Something odd catches Jay's eye. K isn't sweating. Is K the alien masquerading in human guise, finally revealing his true nature? Paranoia sets in, straight out of MIB headquarters. I enjoy how MIB combines world-sized threats and personal wisecracks, such as K not sweating since he's cool. Blastulins are a wink at hyperbolic, heat-loving alien conquerors of old-school sci-fi, taken to comedic heights. When K and J receive a cryptic SOS, they encounter Bill, a lab tech who, like K, isn't sweating. Bill is a care tech worker with a fresh wound. K will not recognize him, and this piques Jay's interest. They use L's services to test Bill's blood and discover it is a match for the blood of an injured alien scout. Jay begins to suspect K is a Blastulin mole. A dark twist on trust. No one MIB is one of those properties that manages to make even your own partner suspicious, keeps one in suspense, and is funny. Alien invasion plots are a standard of MIB, but here there is a twist. K himself turns out to be a suspect, combining mystery and comedy. When Jay confronts K, gun drawn, K dodges out of the way, telling Jay he won't shoot. Jay keeps searching and grills Bill's wife Darlene, who informs him that Bill has been behaving strangely. Then Claxel, leader of the Blastulins, shows up, but K breaks the news. He had been standing in for Bill. The actual Bill is a Blastulin scout who found Earth's utopia and sent the SOS. K had to mislead Jay because Blastulin are telephatic. That twist is so MIB, melodramatic, humorous, and entirely too much sci-fi rationalization. Swapping identities is an MIB classic, with the audience kept in the dark, while the heroes get to have fun with alien perception. The scorching heat is due to sunspot laboratories planted in the sun by the Blastulins. K and Bill had also tried out a chemical solution known as Rescue. With the last sunspot launch imminent, K instructs Jay to get covered. Jay acts fast and triggers several blasts on the sunspot device, vaporizing Claxel inside the sun and regulating Earth's climate. Amidst the chaos, K sees that in all of the alien interference, Bill has the heart of a human, a touching emotional moment among the chaos. MIB serves up big sci-fi action with small human feelings, like showing respect to alien. From playing with sunspots to unleashing extraterrestrial invasions by heat, the series dishes out its usual equal measures of stargazing danger, smart sci-fi shocks, and sparkling wit. Finally, K refers to Jay one more time as Slick, teasing him with having to earn his rightful title again. The show concludes with Earth saved, climate adjusted, and Jay reminded that in MIB, things aren't ever quite as they seem. That final slick teaser expresses MIB's balance of grave heroics and light-heartedly humorous character relationships to perfection. Season 2, Episode 1, The Quick Clone. The episode begins with the MIB agents utterly drained. Why? Because they've been stuck putting in 37-hour centaur days, and it's catching up to them. Agent J is particularly tired, even joking that his under-eye circles are darker than Z's. In contrast, K looks totally fine and rested, which pisses J off. The secret? K has been employing something known as quick clones, temporary duplicates of himself that can function while he sleeps. They're just like their originals, at least until they finally go plop. If I had a quick clone, I'd get it to do my homework while I watch Netflix all day. Just saying, quick clones actually originated in the comics. They've always been one of the most dangerous gadgets in the MIB arsenal. K cautions J that quick clones are not to be trusted, particularly for field agents, but J insists. After some give and take, K begrudgingly signs off on providing J with 3 clones. J, naturally, desired 5. Before long, J encounters his first duplicate, monikered Slick. Mayhem breaks out at once, and J must resort to clone number 2 after Slick freaks out after a confrontation with Bobo and his sewer thugs. That's when things really go haywire. Alpha re-emerges, crazier and scarier than before. In MIB, you can only half-jokingly mention that a clone went off the rails after crossing paths with a sewer dweller like Bobo. Alpha's weird one-liners, such as Little Red Tugboat and Flapjack's Fly, were penned to indicate his crazy mindset. The authors intentionally made his lines sound glitchy and unstable. Alpha confronts K, hurling his cryptic threats, while J finds himself in trouble for sending out his clones on their own. But J, being J, he disobeys K's command and fires up clone number 3, instructing it, "Don't do anything I wouldn't do." Naturally, clone 3 is irresponsible and goes so far as to fire one of the shutdown buttons, making him more difficult to control. Meanwhile, L discovers a shocking truth. Alpha has pilfered Zed's brain with Goethean technology. With Zed's body behind, Alpha controls him like a marionette via neural sensors. Brainless Zed is like Batman without his toys. You just know tragedy awaits. This is one of the rare times in the series when the normally calm Zed is directly compromised, hugely raising the stakes for veteran viewers. J and K soon realize that Alpha is attacking Zed's short-term memory. That's when they see that a strange work of contemporary art displayed in a museum, a so-called nartaka, is not really art. It's actually elaborate schematics indicating almost every alien missile silo in the universe. Alpha's scheme to transplant Zed's brain onto his own spinal cord and use the information to wreak havoc. Imagine thinking you're looking at modern art, only to find out it's basically Google Maps for alien nukes. Classic MIB twist. The Nartaka design was based on real-world surrealist art pieces. Fans have compared it to Salvador Dali's style. In the grand finale, J unleashes clone number 4. It appears as if backup has arrived, but no, this clone breaks down quicker than its predecessors. Alpha makes his escape once more, becoming the ultimate nuisance of recurring danger. Ultimately, the final clones reach a decision that their brief existence should not be spent battling aliens. They take off to play a game of basketball instead. Honestly, that's the most realistic thing the clones do all episode. Who wouldn't skip work to play some hoops if their life would only last a few hours? This episode effectively established the tone for Season 2's grimmer plots with Alpha back, but offset by the same quirky MIB humour. Season 2...
We got your back.
Episode 2, The Little Big Man. The men in black are in deep trouble from the get-go. They've lost their 10th Arquillian in 2 hours due to mysterious kidnappings. Arquillians are generally a tranquil lot. They abhor violence and obey the rules, but they also just so happen to be the bitter enemies of the Fmek, a sly little race from the planet Fu. And get this, the Fmeks are small, but they are obscenely intelligent. They've been killing Arquillians left and right, and since Arquillians wear heavy-duty human-sized exosuits, that leaves the Fmeks free to weaponize them. Imagine a small alien flying around in a human form, like they're wearing an armor suit. It's essentially Barney the dinosaur turning into Godzilla overnight. Honestly, I'd quit Earth on the spot if I ever saw a 3-foot alien piloting a bodybuilder's body like it was a Gundam suit. The F-mechs borrow a page from old-school sci-fi small invader cliches, giving nods to movies such as Invasion of the Doll People. Jay, ever the eager beaver, wants to rush right in and offers to act as a bait for the F-mechs, but the Trilock Treaty forbids using civilian aliens in dangerous missions. The answer? MIB opts to miniaturize Jay to Arquillian size, so he can combat fire with fire. They equip him with a basic trainer slick device that compacts his body to mini mode. Next thing Jay knows, he's dressed in a suit resembling something from a school nurse's station. To add insult to injury, the exosuit alters his voice to a squeaky, digitized modulation that's meant to be mistaken for Arquillian. Needless to say, Jay is not happy about it. This is comedy nirvana, Jay talking like a chipmunk and stiff as a toy soldier. The design of the exosuit was partly drawn from real 1950s sci-fi astronaut costumes, so Jay's embarrassment is both retro and futuristic. Even as Robo-Jay, he still pulls through and completes the mission. Jay succeeds in apprehending a F-mech called Mickey, who is wanted on 22 planets. Mickey breaks the news. The F-mechs are utilizing their pilfered exosuits to breach an Earth-based radar station. Their intention? To steal a huge radio telescope and divert a 4,000-watt death ray from their planet, Fu. But it gets worse. The death ray is not being fired at Earth. Rather, they're rebounding it off Earth's technology to destroy Arquillia. Essentially, they're employing humanity's equipment as an intermediary for genocide. Only MIB would dream up a plot in which Earth's biggest threat is being used as an alien Wi-Fi hotspot for causing destruction. This is one of the very rare instances in the show when Earth isn't being targeted. It shows how often MIB must defend the galaxy itself, rather than just our own planet. Understanding the risks, Zed upgrades Jay to a new titanium-reinforced exosuit for him to endure the coming battle. The F-mechs are over at Area 57, just outside of Phoenix, positioning themselves to take over the radio telescope. Jay ends up being flustered, trying to move the exosuit, but ultimately pulls through. With brute strength and a bit of creative thinking, Jay manually adjusts the radar dish to precisely 41.67 degrees, just barely in time to deflect the death beam. The F-mech's plan collapses, and they are forced to withdraw from Earth in shame. I love how Jay saves the galaxy through improvising with or without a plan. He basically said, "Turn the dish a little this way," and saved an entire species. The Area 57 setting is a wink at Area 51. The authors joked they chose 57 because it sounded even more classified and mysterious. Afterward, Jay confesses he's actually kind of liking life as Robo-Jay. He may have been shrunk, embarrassed, and crammed into a tin suit, but he got the job accomplished. Nevertheless, he's more than happy to be back to normal size, though he does concede the suits got a little messed up. And with that, the F-mechs flee. Arquillians are safe, at least for the time being, and Jay lives to fight another day. Seriously, if I were Jay, I'd just keep the mini-suit for pranks. Picture it, popping out of someone's coffee mug like, "Surprise, I'm your bodyguard." People adored this episode because it allowed Jay to get into the shoes, literally, of the Arquillians, allowing us to see more of one of the franchise's most beloved alien species.
Out of the bag.
Season 2, Episode 3, The Heads You Lose. This episode begins with Alpha, our show's resident big bad, attempting to go shopping for spare body parts. Yes, you heard correctly, he's on the hunt for replacements, and one of the things he has on his shopping list is none other than Ravlak's arm. Now, if you're familiar with Alpha, then you know he's not exactly some strange fellow browsing around on eBay for alien limbs. Whenever he's rummaging, you can bet that he's working on some nefarious scheme. Meanwhile, back at MYB HQ, we're introduced to a brand new intern, Troy. But Troy isn't your average rookie. He's actually a symbiote. Agent J steps up and volunteers to host him, because of course he does. The moment Troy attaches, Jay gets literal whiplash and starts cracking jokes about being the Troy to his It's equal parts awkward and hilarious, especially when Troy starts acting like he and Jay are destined besties. To see Jay paired with a clingy alien intern is buddy cop farce blended with intergalactic babysitting. Symbiotes like Troy drew inspiration from comic book staples, especially Marvel's Venom, but were reimagined with a lighter, more comedic spin. Things go quickly awry. Jay, Troy, and Kay leave on what is supposed to be a routine patrol, checking out what appears to be a routine grab-lax kidnapping, only for things to shortly get complicated. But Kay smells trouble immediately. It's a trap. True enough, Alpha himself shows up, and he has his sights on Troy. Why? Because Alpha knows symbiotes can't be killed. If he can bond with Troy, he'll be nearly unstoppable. He kidnaps Troy right before the agent's eyes, leaving Jay on the sidelines and wounded. I swear, every time new technology or a new love interest gets cocky with Jay, Alpha just steps in to humble him. Alpha's fixation on splicing alien biology onto himself makes him one of the only villains in the series who captures Frankenstein's monster feelings. Enter Mrs. Catechus, mother of Troy, and she is not amused. When I say not amused, I mean she's planning to dismantle the galaxy unless MIB returns her son in one piece. She even threatens Frank the pug, warning her that she'll take him apart limb by limb if he doesn't help with the mission. Wretched Frank is intimidated into obedience, just another example of the fact that he's MIB's lowest paid field agent. Frank's entire attitude here is, I didn't sign up for this. But come on, dog or not, he's still one of the show's greatest characters. Mrs. Catechus's design was intentionally exaggerated to demonstrate just how frightening a fully grown symbiote can be, in contrast to her miniature son. The rescue plan for Troy is not simple. Meet G. Jebs, the unsavory alien weapons trader. He says he's walked in on something and is willing to betray Alpha by shocking him long enough to have surgery to unplug him from Troy. Jebs sets Alpha's ship to crash by tampering with its navigation system. The catch? Things go haywire. The vessel is racing toward destruction, and Jay is in the thick of a catastrophe. But just when it seems like curtains for our beloved agent, Mrs. Catechus, to the rescue, she infuses each cell in Jay's body with her symbiote healing energy. The outcome? Jay makes it through the crash, and they both work to pry Alpha loose from Troy before a permanent merge can occur. Alpha naturally escapes at the last minute because villains never die easily. I'd pay good money to see Will Smith acting out symbiote healing powers in live action. This episode quietly sets up how dangerous symbiotes could be if corrupted. Something fans speculated could have been a full season arc. In the end, Troy decides to remain in MIB. He proclaims that he, James, and Kay are essentially triplets now, much to Jay's irritation. The final gag arrives when they bump into Mr. Grablax, still one arm short, grumbling that if you want something done properly, you've got to do it yourself. Typical MIB comedy saves the galaxy, and still has cranky aliens. I enjoy how Jay continually gets stuck with odd alien sidekicks. Worms, Frank, a symbiote intern. His life is essentially one extended sitcom. This is usually one of the show's funniest alpha shows, according to fans, as it combines genuine peril with extreme camp humor. Season 2, Episode 4, The Dog Eat Dog. This one's all about our beloved wisecracking sidekick, Frank the Pug. The episode begins with Frank being busted by the Department of Animal Regulation. Why? Because apparently, a talking dog is against code 487B. Seriously, this is one of those only in MIB issues. Aliens walking around, doomsday devices aplenty, and someone's biggest worry is a dog that won't shut up. But before Frank can be hauled off, an intergalactic prison ship crashes on Earth. And who survives? Dre, a total psycho with a rap sheet longer than Ben Allen's belt. Dre is also Frank's old prison cellmate from Zara Clare Prison. The bad news? Not only is Dre a psycho, but he's also fixated on revenge, namely boiling human beings alive, slowly. Sick, right? And he picks his feet. Yeah. You'll never see your toes the same way anymore. Frank may make jokes about being tough, but you can see that Dre actually intimidates him. And seriously, if a crazed alien psycho promised to make soup out of me, I'd be frightened too. Dre's character design was said to have been inspired by prison stereotypes, big and menacing, but sci-fi styled. Agent K offers Frank a deal. Assist MIB in apprehending Dre, and Frank receives a brand new XL 2000 suit. This isn't your ordinary clothing, by the way. It's resistant to heat, high-tech, and more or less an icon of status for alien informants. Frank accepts, but you can see he's primarily interested in the new clothes factor. Priorities, anyone? Frank arranges a meeting with Dre by pretending to host a poker night. In the meantime, he warns J and K about Dre's habits genuinely. The man boils his enemies slow and low. The tense scene feels like a gangster film, only with aliens and dogs. Frank dropping Dre on the card table is a peak MIB humor, a poker-playing pug with a hidden game. The XL 2000 suit gag returns. Frank's old one, he claims, as a big upgrade. Dre kidnaps Frank and readies the cauldron, but Frank stays calm, fakes betrayal, and secretly texts Kay. Perfect trap setup. Honestly, for a pug, Frank might just be one of the smoothest operators out there. Cue the dramatic entrance. J and K show up wearing their own heat-resistant suits. The battle with Dre is frenetic but brief. Dre may be a psycho, but he can't handle the combined efforts of MIB. Dre is apprehended, and the day is saved. This entire scene is reminiscent of a buddy cop face-off, but here one of the cops is a pug and the bad guy is an alien obsessed with boiling. You can't make this up. Dre was played by a prominent voice actor who also contributed to Batman, the animated series. Fans love pointing out the crossover. And finally, we have the payoff. Frank gets his new XL 2000 suit. The joke? It's identical to his old mangy flea bag suit. The only changes are Corinthian leather lining and a moon roof, luxury options that only Frank would find impressive. He boasts. The rest of the world simply rolls its eyes. Classic Frank moment. He saves the day, but his biggest flex is leather lining. Honestly, I'd expect nothing less. The moon roof gag was added late in production, and fans loved it so much that Frank's suit became a running Easter egg in later episodes. In the end, Frank proves once again that even though he's small, sarcastic, and technically a pet, he's one of MIB's most valuable assets. And let's be real, no one else could turn alien crime fighting into a comedy routine quite like him.
Royal jelly's mine, dung!
Season 2, Episode 5, The Big Bad Bug. The worms are panicking at the beginning of this one. They believe they are doomed. Why is that? The Emperor worms come from their home planet. Dubbed the Big Cheese and a big fat guy, the worms plead with Agent J to assist them in staging a performance as elite super agents. Naturally, J goes along with it, addressing the Emperor like royalty. In all seriousness, having J made to both boast of the worms as heroes is already comedy gold. But trouble is afoot. Frank the Pug comes rolling in with a scoop. There's a new insect in town by the name of Edwin, Edgar's brother. Yes, the bug from the first Men in Black film. Edwin hopes to make his mom, the Queen, proud. And how is he going to do that? By eliminating the agent who iced Edgar. Frank shows it's not K on the hit list, it's J. Uh-oh. Edgar's brother Edwin was conceived as a fan callback for fans of the film, so this is one of the few direct tie-ins to the film's plot. K spots a kitchen MIB, shorthand for a hotspot, while L makes her way to Central Park as bait. Edwin, upon seeing her, believes that L is the person who attacked his brother. Edwin is massive, ugly, and completely in the mood for payback. The worms, naturally, have more of an interest in having coffee than in combat, but Kay is quick to remind them of the fact that on the worms' native planet, coffee beans are sacred and only for royalty. That bit of information returns in the most hilarious way. Such is this show that sacred extraterrestrial coffee beans can be a life and death diversion. The worm's fixation on coffee during the course of the series is an in-joke from the film, having been hanging around the MIB break room drinking coffee. Jay saves Elle with coffee as bait, but things go awry when another bug named Dung arrives. Dung explains that the Queen doesn't want Elle dead right away. She wants her alive so she can flay her herself. Yeah, not exactly a relaxing family reunion. Edwin then bursts into a diner, looking for Dung, and the bugs almost kill each other over the reward, £10,000 of royal jelly. The worms now realize their time to shine has come at last. They mobilize behind the slogan, "The Emperor expects it," uniting with J and K. Despite the odds, the worms assist in the defeat of the bugs through LTD 2D atomizers, achieving what they themselves term a technical knockout. Weary but victorious, they even succeed in appearing like genuine heroes for once. Seeing the worms actually work, instead of riding on others' coattails, was both funny and strangely fulfilling. The reward of £10,000 of royal jelly is an homage to actual beehives, where royal jelly is the king's food for queens. The episode wraps up with the worms swallowing more sugar, anxious about what the Emperor will do when he discovers they disrespected the holy coffee ritual. But hey, they saved the day, and for the worms, it's an unusual win. Season 2, Episode 6, The Jack-o'-lantern. This one starts with MIB preparing for their take on Halloween. But with aliens following a 19-month centaur calendar, confusion sets in fast. Still, Earth customs win out, and the crew prepares for the big Halloween scare-a-thon. Agent U arrives on Zed's orders, while Jay stays laid back as Copper Joe the Percolator, still admiring Kay as his hero and Earth's finest. Only Jay would use a coffee nickname on Halloween. In MIB, aliens love Earth holidays, with Halloween as their casual Friday. Things begin to get bizarre when Frank the pug appears in a panic. He's sure he's been bitten by a werewolf terrier during a full moon. Naturally, Kay dismisses him because MIB doesn't typically deal with supernatural issues. Meanwhile, the worms are sulking about their trick-or-treat haul. They ended up with sardines instead of candy. Then, suddenly the power cuts out, and that's when the name Jack-o'-lantern gets dropped. According to local kids, this monster rises on Halloween night, has a huge pumpkin head, and mutilates his victims in the dark. Sardines instead of candy? Yeah, I'd riot too. Jack-o'-lantern lore in this episode is a great wink at actual folklore, mixing Earth myths with extraterrestrial explanations. The agents soon discover there's more than a ghost story to it. Jebs gets caught selling bootleg human suits and gives them a tip about an alien descent at a pumpkin patch in Hackensack. It goes from bad to worse when Jack-o'-lantern is accused of kidnapping a worm. Agent Troy hints it's a ghost, but Kay remains a skeptic, attributing it to alien technology run amok or a rogue electromagnetic field. Before long, Jack begins to make victims, transferring them into empty human suits that dance around eerily as some kind of alien zombie party. In all honesty, the dancing empty suits were far more terrifying than the pumpkin head monster. The human suits nod is a nod towards the original MIB film where Edgar the Bug wore one. Good continuity point. As the situation spirals, the worms come in with their own outlandish solution. They propose a spell using an onion, hog fat, and a bell to drive Jack away. Absolutely silly, but they mean it dead. Meanwhile, Agent Bob falls victim to Jack. And Kay realizes this is no ghost. This is a Barthog transport used for purposes not its own by alien slave traders. They are abducting little people for labor, with Jack as their scary disguise. Let Kay spoil the party by showing monsters don't exist, just bad tech aliens. The Bartogs actually come from the expanded catalogue of the animated series and not the initial comics. The worms do their part big time when Kay employs a field generator to replicate conditions from the home planet of the aliens. The worms suddenly become super strong, fast and agile, essentially Halloween superheroes. They bring down the so-called Jack-o'-lantern, showing it was simply an alien all along. Kay reminds us all in the end there were no cockamamie ghosts, goblins, or ghouls, but merely science and aliens. Meanwhile, Frank, still believing he's a werewolf, ends up on a leash. The worms transforming into superheroes. That's the Halloween special I didn't know I needed. This is one of the few episodes where the worms actually win a fight on their own, instead of running away or hiding behind Jay. Season 2, E7, The Sonic Boom. This episode starts off with Agent K running into an old, let's call her a friend. Her name's Aylin, an alien agent who's just passing through Earth while transporting a prisoner. Jay, being Jay, immediately picks up on the fact that Kay's wearing his good black suit and gives him grief about still having a thing for Aylin. But Aylin's not alone. She's got a new young partner named Edie. Their assignment? Escorting a doozy, a prisoner with one seriously lethal ability. He can actually melt titanium with just a scribble. Yeah, his voice is essentially a living firearm. Imagine a karaoke night with a doozy. Everyone's dead before the first chorus. A doozy's ability to sing metal into liquid is actually inspired by the real-world phenomenon of resonance, where sound waves can shatter glass. Of course, things don't stay under control for long. A doozy escapes in the most alien way possible. He sprouts a second mouth and slips out of custody. Edie is devastated, having felt like she's blown her first assignment. Aylin and Edie go to investigate Jeb's black market store for clues, while Jay and Kay visit Frank. Frank denies guilt, but brags about his sharp hearing. Eddie crashes the LTD, a rough start, wrecking the car on day one. I feel you, Edie. The LTD is practically a character in MIB. Cool fact, its voice command features were initially teased out in previous episodes, but developed further later. Zed, naturally, is not pleased. 4 agents on one operation, and they still manage to lose Aduzi. He rebukes them, reminding everyone that Aduzi is essentially an earthquake waiting to happen. That's when L brings out 2 useful devices, the sonic nullifier and the frequency tracker. Together, they can nullify Aduzi's lethal sound waves, but only if Aduzi utters the word R first, so they can scan his frequency. It's the ultimate game of getting a villain to sing before you can defeat him. So beating Aduzi literally boils down to karaoke training. Hilarious. The sonic nullifier is one of those one-trick gadgets that never appear again, despite how ridiculous it would have been to reuse in other episodes. Meanwhile, feelings are running high. Jay observes that Kay is different from Aylin, more laid back, less tense, even wearing his tie differently. Edie, as keen as ever, picks up on things like Aylin applying her human cover-up with a mud pack treatment and her tendrils trembling around Kay. Essentially, there's some backstory there, and Jay is not about to let Kay off the hook for keeping it secret. But personal soap opera must wait, because Aduzi is moving again, this time towards the planetarium, a point of departure. Jay is the ultimate wingman, except instead of assisting, he just makes life awkward for Kay every single time. The show hardly ever gives Kay any romantic tension, so Aylin is one of the very few characters who even gives a hint of his past relationships. The showdown climaxes in the planetarium, where Aduzi unleashes his sonic boom. The damage is huge, but Edie comes to the rescue big time. She takes the LTD, yes, the same vehicle she crashed in the first place, puts it into overdrive, and succeeds in stopping Aduzi just in the nick of time. Aylin and Edie depart Earth subsequently, with Aylin teasing Jay by implying that he can crash her car if he should ever come to her planet. Meanwhile, at HQ, Kay smugly lets it be known that he always suspected Jay would destroy the LTD, and L likely shot the nullifier the second Jay began bragging about having it. Edie's redemption arc was quick, but rewarding rookie error to rookie savior in an episode. Aylin's vow to Jay was never cashed in later in the series, but fans still joke about Jay finally taking that road trip across the galaxy. Season 2, Episode 8, The Bad Seed. The episode begins with the MIB gang getting their monthly morale-enhancing gathering. Frank the Pug, the Worms, and the agents are merely hanging around when a smuggler gets apprehended for importing fruits and vegetables across interstellar borders. Now, this isn't merely about bad grub. Alien produce can contain nasty parasites that bring on plagues. To extract the truth from the smuggler, they use the Pinua drill, essentially an overpowered truth serum. Alas, the serum renders him unconscious before he tells the whole tale, but not before slurring that the actual contraband is a seed. Naturally, it's always the thing you don't notice that goes and destroys the planet. Typical MIB scenario. The Pinua drill truth serum is actually one of the few pieces of alien technology in the series that by accident works too well. The bad news? No one has found the antidote, so the effects of the truth serum will just have to wear off naturally. The bad news is that it's also affecting the agents. Suddenly, Jay is talking too frankly and out of turn, and everyone else is spilling things they'd never usually talk about. Meanwhile, K and L follow a lead to investigate Frank's supposed garden issue. It turns out that the enigmatic seed has already sprouted in the great outdoors by a newsstand and fire hydrant due to Frank's enzymes. What grows is anything but a normal plant. It's a monster that fires off spores capable of infecting human bloodstreams instantly. Leave it to Frank to urinate on an extraterrestrial seed and inaugurate an apocalypse. Infected by spores motif is a reference to early sci-fi horror movies, such as Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Things quickly get out of hand. Elle discovers that the plant's DNA is identical to the contraband they were smuggling, so this entire fiasco is precisely what they were working to avoid. Zed becomes infected himself and begins to talk in a spooky hive mind manner, requiring agents to distribute compost, so more individuals will be converted into plants. He tells us he's essentially the mouthpiece of the Rack, a race whose sole purpose is to breed their kind by consuming human hosts. On the streets, the infected agents are actually mowing hedges like automatons of gardeners, spooky and funny at once. Zombie gardeners with hedge trimmers? That's nightmare fuel and comedy rolled into one. This is one of the only times in the show where Zed, the no-nonsense boss, becomes a direct villain, though unwillingly. J and K eventually discover that all the plant roots converge underground, at the mother lode. Problem: they can't get close enough to administer the antidote without being infected themselves. While Frank continues to rave under the influence of the truth serum, he is babbling secrets regarding MIB activities to a Department of Agriculture agent. It's hilarious and risky, but it inspires Kay to think that if Frank is the host to the infection, he can also be utilized to pass an instant antidote directly into the mother plant's core. Only MIB would employ a wisecracking pug as the ultimate biotoxin. The Department of Agriculture cameo is an inside joke, pairing alien danger with Earth's most unsexily named agency. The climax is clever and subversive. Kay outright lies to Frank, telling him that he's the hero host who must sacrifice himself. Frank purchases it and is flung directly into the mother lode, dispersing the antidote throughout the network of plants. The rack collapses, the spores expire, and everyone's cured. Jay shakes off the truth serum eventually, but not before spilling a little more than he'd ever want to record. The last gag is from a news story reporting that the Department of Agriculture Division 6 dealt with a pesky crabgrass issue. Yeah, just crabgrass. Sure. Frank's earned a raise. He's saved the world more times than half the agents combined. The final gag regarding Division 6 was the show's method of satirizing the way the government would cover up massive catastrophes. The F-Mall world. The F-Mechs return, and they're angrier than ever. Having ruined their home planet, Fu with their very own death ray, regardless, talk about backfiring, they set their sights on Earth. These little buggers might be tiny, but they keep reminding everyone of how they can cause a lot of damage. Meanwhile, at headquarters, Kay smugly lets it be known that he always suspected Jay would destroy the LTD, and L likely shot the nullifier the second Jay began bragging about having it. They even take over Earth's broadcast systems to inform the world that someday soon, Earth will be theirs. Yeah, not creepy at all. Only MIB could turn little aliens into a colossal headache. The FMEX are a play on the classic tiny invader trope, a sci-fi parody where brains and gadgets matter way more than size. In walks Professor Bjork, essentially a space-age version of Einstein, to assist. He speaks of using science for the advancement of life forms, but lo and behold, the FMEX strike. They believe they've abducted the professor to steal his growth formula so that they may grow to human size and destroy Earth. The problem is they've kidnapped Emperor Ferv, the leader of the worms, by mistake. Yeah, they abducted the wrong dude. Honestly, I'd pay money to see the worm emperor try to act like Einstein. Comedy gold. The worms calling their leader emperor is a running gag, since they're usually portrayed as bumbling slackers. At headquarters, Jebs is held over for allegedly betraying MIB, selling them out to the FMEX. In the meantime, the true Professor Bjork is found lounging in Zed's office, drinking Zed's private reserve coffee. Bjork explains that his formula is not yet complete. The final ingredient? Coffee comes in varieties like Costa Rican, Kona, and French roast, which he calls a geography lesson on the bean's diversity. Only MIB can turn coffee into the strongest chemical in the galaxy. One of the series' few instances where Zed's coffee supply is indeed plot important. The FMEC Emperor, Merv, is at last able to lay hands on the coffee and guzzles it in an attempt to grow up to be a supersized terror. What he finds, however, is that it inhibits growth. J and K arrive on the scene, and J simply decides to fight fire with fire. He takes a dose of Bjork's formula, growing himself up to a giant to fight Merv. At once, it's kaiju time, New York style. J becoming Big J to battle FMECzilla, right off a Saturday morning cartoon. The show actually parodied Godzilla-style monster battles here, referring to Merv as FMECzilla. Of course, that things become intense. Merv consumes more formula, actually transforming into an enormous giant, poised to crush the city. Kay calls in a consultant, who is suggested to bring Bjork, and who just so happens to have antidotes for all of his experiments. The catch is, the antidote is administered orally, meaning Jay has to literally feed it to the giant alien. After a massive battle, Jay succeeds, shrinking Merv down to microscopic size, nothing quite like saving the world by forcing medicine down an alien kaiju's throat. The MIB cover-up at the end attributes the battle to two giant parade balloons getting loose. Typical MIB misdirection. Season 2, Episode 10, The Supermen in Black. This one starts off with Jay and Kay mocking superhero. Jay's like, so this guy blasts to Earth, lands with ideal parents, has his fantasy job, handsome looks, and the woman? Yeah, sure. Completely realistic. Kay just gives that typical Kay stare, you know, the don't waste my time face. Then there is Duty. MIB receives a distress call from Courier Niner, a vessel being attacked by alien raiders. These folks aren't in this for the treasure. They're after something known as the Thomasotron Matter Amplifier. This crazy device can multiply anything: food, money, or worse, weapon. Of course, this makes it a cosmic shopping cart of destruction. Honestly, if you gave me that amplifier, I'd never shop for groceries again. Just throw one pizza slice in, boom, instant buffet. The Thomasotron amplifier is one of those sci-fi gizmos that really came from the comics, though it was watered down for the show. In the chaos, Jay and Kay themselves get exposed to the amplifier. The consequences? Jay is suddenly as agile as a superhero. He's bouncing around, boasting he's jumping like some sort of jumping dude. Typical JK also transforms. He looks more heroic, cut even, but he still has the same stone-faced demeanor. Doesn't matter how much muscle he develops, K is always K. And that's not all. Agent L also gains powers. She has hypnovision and telekinesis, which means she can actually move objects with her mind. Your boss is floating your coffee over to you instead of getting up and walking across the office. Creepy flex, but sure. Jay essentially becomes Spider-Man, K is Superman, minus the grin, and L, straight up Professor X vibes. One of the rare times the show hands agents actual superpowers, poking fun at superhero cliches while still keeping the signature MIB comedy intact. But here's the twist. The Raiders got exposed as well. They don't want to do heroics. They want to use their abilities to rule Earth with iron fists. They destroy the original amplifier, but Zed finds out soon enough that the worms are keeping busy reproducing, because of course the worms are in on it. Things move rapidly. The Raiders focus their attention on Washington, D.C. with a sweeping coup by means of an attack on the president himself. J and K rush to thwart them. J employs his newfound agility, somersaulting around like a circus performer, while K becomes a force of brute power. They are an unlikely but surprisingly effective superhero pair. And here's the century's twist. When they finally arrive at the White House, they find that the president isn't human. Nope, our man in the White House is a cat. Yeah, you heard right. All those political years, and it's been feline overlord run. Season 2, Episode 11, The Star System. Agents J and K are dispatched to NYB Hollywood, an office specializing in extraterrestrial thespians, to look into a missing alien. Local agent Pete says there have been 3 missing clients, but insists there's no pattern. All 3 missing aliens are professional thespians. J and K begin by interviewing Francis, who sounds eerily like Frank the Pug, then interview Space Demon, star of the Predeterminator series. Space Demon is vocally resentful of Predeterminator Prey for imitating his routine, and Edalfla for possessing a series. Jay immediately realizes jealousy may be the central motivation for the turmoil. Only MIB can render alien Hollywood melodrama into high-stakes detective work. Space Demon satirizes diva performers in old Hollywood, demonstrating how ego can eclipse talent. During the investigation, Jay observes the Astro Tots advertising a coffee commercial. Kay deduces that the culprits must be the Astro Tots. Although ultra pro-social, the Tots have high moral standards. They destroyed Predeterminator Prey as they were terrible role models, Edalful for name-calling, and Annette because she planned to tattle. To prove his theory, Kay deliberately lets the Tots zap him. They assure us that they can't vaporize anyone themselves. They employed a sapper to perform the acts. A mind sap test as an investigative tool, classic MIB ingenuity. The Astrotots hyperbolize the moral police cliché, pushed to extreme sci-fi silliness. The Tots are ultimately traced to Philadelphia, where they are caught. Kay returns to MIB headquarters, victorious after the successful tracking of the missing actors. For the last capture, Zed uses chocolate sauce and whipped cream, making the operation a silly, messy affair. The missing aliens are rescued, and the Tots caught. Hollywood itself might just require neuralization, as the incident was too crazy to become public knowledge. Whipped cream and chocolate as weapons of war, only MIB. Having dessert used in a mission incorporates humor while reflecting MIB's imaginative thinking skill. The agents conclude the case by the end of the episode. The alien actor victims are safe, the culprits are apprehended, and Hollywood is back to its usual intergalactic state of chaos-free living, at least for the time being. MIB's blend of silliness, sci-fi gadgetry, and clever comedy maintains the series' perpetually entertaining quality. This episode combines Hollywood satire with intergalactic law enforcement in a distinctly unique way, setting it apart from the rest of the season.
Yo, Shrek!
Season 2, Episode 12, The Black Christmas. 'Tis the holiday season at MIB, and Agent J is having a hard time picking out a present for Kay. He thinks that Kay is not the sentimental type, which makes finding the ultimate gift that much more difficult. In the meantime, Zed gets an electric foot massager, while the twins receive his and hers towels. Kay surprises Jay with a toast warmer, because even MIB agents need their little indulgences. But before they are able to enjoy the holiday, Zed sounds a code white. Santa Claus, or Nick, has disappeared, kidnapped by the bad guy Dre. Only MIB would have a code white only for a missing Santa. Santa is not really an alien, but his elves are, and the North Pole is only a smokescreen. Santa likes to operate out of New York, delivering the MIB take on traditional Christmas mythology. In the meantime, Jebs gets caught peddling black market elf-made products. Mickey, an elf, is added to the mix for K&J's mission. In Code White, Zed the top MIB administrator, stands in for Santa temporarily to maintain business as usual. The twins say there is a Zidoran ship that has come. Zidorans are an advanced breed of children who never get older than 7 years of age. This means that Dre is an employee of theirs, and they kidnapped Santa just because they wanted a Christmas too. Alien kids who want Christmas? It's crazy and cute at the same time. The Zidorans are an ideal combination of whimsy and sci-fi sense, demonstrating the series' imagination in alien world build. Kay and Jay find Dre and Santa. They free Santa with the help of a clever reindeer implant. With some alien intervention, Santa finishes up his Christmas deliveries. Dre is foiled, and Christmas is saved. To make matters even better, Kay gives Jay a first edition of A Christmas Carol, which she knows is Jay's favourite novel. How did Kay know? Just on a gut hunch, proving once again the incredible chemistry between these two agents. There's nothing more partner-like than knowing your partner's favourite book by instinct. Kay's instinct is a discrete underlying thread throughout the series, demonstrating that he's not only a stoic agent, but also observant and considerate. By the end of the episode, the festive cheer returns. Jay is able to wind down somewhat, enjoying Kay's present and the eccentric MIB Christmas rituals. MIB demonstrates that no matter how much alien abductions and intergalactic mayhem are going on, room is always found for Yuletide cheer. I enjoy the way that MIB makes Christmas into an action, comedy, sci-fi mashup. Even Santa's rounds are given an intergalactic spin. This episode combines holiday themes with MIB's trademark intergalactic missions in a refreshing way, making it one of the season's best episodes. Season 2, Episode 13, The Blackard. Agents J and K are monitoring Blood One, the MIB space station armed with massive solar cannons and staffed by Tubby and Sven. Suddenly there are glitches in the station communications, and sensors fail at the worst moment. Alpha Davy comes aboard Blood One with one mission: destroy MYB. He gives the order to fire Tubby, the enormous solar cannon, at MYB headquarters. Swift-thinking agents J and K overload the system, which results in a lens malfunction and emergency shutdown. Headquarters is salvaged, barely escaping complete disaster. Alpha's melodramatic space station attacks are too much, but precisely why this show is so enjoyable. Tubby and Sven ridicule sci-fi superweapons that malfunction because of hacker errors or hardware failure. A cliché tired even for the genre. Alpha needs a 14-11 LTSC lens, and Jebs is the sole owner. Jebs' brother Burmy has the coordinates for delivering the lens in outer space. MIB takes Jebs captive, and Jay goes undercover, disguising himself as Burmy to infiltrate Blood One. With his cunning tricks, he provides a defective lens to Dak, Alpha's partner, undermining their plot from within. Jay pretending to be his brother. The ultimate combination of recklessness and silliness only MIB can carry off. Jebs and Burmy are immortal. They regrow when limbs are blown off, so they are both deadly and comical in fight scenario. While this is happening, Kay openly challenges Alpha on Blood One. In the climactic confrontation, the secret regarding Jebs and Burmy's immortality is revealed. Kay also makes his permanent dedication to MIB clear, claiming he's been there from the beginning and wishes to be there until the end. The two clash in a legendary fight, and Alpha is finally vanquished. The faulty lens turns out to be completely useless, clearing the way for MYB's victory. Immortal brothers and a stubborn bad guy? Let MIB do it and make it tense and funny. This episode marries huge space opera thrills with the show's signature humour to create a seldom-seen combination that makes this one of the season's finest. In the end, Jay jokingly implies he should get to drive the LTD MIB vehicle as a small reward for his work. Kay, being in character, dismisses him. Even having saved the space station and thwarted Alpha's doomsday plan, the agent's personal dynamics create a comedic layer to the narrative. That LTD driving veto is a great MIB moment. Solemn heroics combined with prosaic office-style power. Blood One, the solar cannons, and the space infiltration serve to emphasize MIB's combination of action at high stakes and comedic science fiction world building, a feature of the show. In summary, J and K save MIB headquarters from a full-scale attack, outwit Alpha, and disable the lethal lens. The galaxy is safe again, but true to MIB style, mayhem, humor, and witty turns of events signal that another adventure is always around the corner. Season 3, E01, The Worm Guy. The episode drops us into the bizarre system of justice of the world Caliphatic. The Worm Guys are arrested for importing an unusual commodity. The J Money says Yoda is carrying a fruit farm. Accused of crimes against Caliphatic, they face ruthless enforcers who warn no negotiation, only retribution. For a routine moving violation of driving under the speed limit in a warp speed zone, the Worm twins are beamed off to a gulag. Only MIB could make a traffic citation into an intergalactic catastrophe. The warp speed traffic regulations come from science fiction exaggerations of minor crimes becoming catastrophic. In a surprising turn of events, the Worm twins suddenly reappear after having been sprung out of confinement through the intervention of the High Council, much to everybody's shock. Soon after, Agent J is in trouble as he gets targeted for ripping a mattress tag off, an incident he gladly admits and accepts. But much to his own relief, as before, the Council decides against him yet again, reaffirming their solidarity with him. K almost gets killed next. Across the radio, Agent J calls Agent L, reporting that MIB computers are crashing in pursuit of aliens who recently traveled through Caliphatic. K tries to negotiate for a list of wanted criminals so everyone can get a fair trial, but the enforcers refuse. They insist they are judge and jury and obey only Caliphatic law. K is trying to negotiate with the enforcers, is as good as it is to get a black hole to cough up your car keys. The judge and jury enforcers are a clear nod to old-school sci-fi stereotypes about totalitarian governments, where laws are carried to absurd degrees. When the dust settles, Wormy gets wacky. He skips his customary rocket fuel coffee and asks for decaf. K visits, but Wormy brushes him aside, muttering he's got things to take care of, as if Caliphatic justice shook him after all. Wormy switching to decaf is the quiet kind of gag, subtle, ridiculous, and peak MIB-style trauma humor. Wormy's decaf is a little detail indicating real-world psychological idiosyncrasies after traumatic experiences. The episode closes with MIB agents slogging through the mess of alien justice, and the viewer laughing at the zaniness, while also being amazed at how other worlds mete out justice. The combination of humor, wacky laws, and witty commentary makes this a memorable beginning of Season 3. A great mix of sci-fi comedy and legal absurdity, classic MIB, slapstick courtroom comedy, and teleportation punishment sequences are borrowed from the slapstick courtroom humor of yesteryear sci-fi cartoons. Season 3, Episode 2, The Cold Sweat. The activity here isn't warming up, it's freezing over. A cosmonaut informs Agents J and L that a mesomorphic alien hijacked his space station and ejected himself in a re-entry pod that crashed on the South Pole. Z dispatches Agents J and L to the scene, despite the fact that J isn't exactly thrilled to risk frostbite. Armed with a souped-up snowmobile filled with high-traction tires and sub-zero gadgetry, they're prepared to face whatever icy terror lies ahead. Closer to home, Jeeves materializes, brought in to offer an Almanian Mark III heat regulator. Only MIB would send a whiner about cold weather into the literal South Pole classic J. The South Pole location is an homage to real-life Antarctic research station, amplified for alien spy. The villain is revealed, Alpha, a retired MIB agent and assumed lost in space. He explains to us that a previous explosion interrupted his regenerative powers, forcing him to bond with a mesomorphic beast by the name of Dak. The result? One shape-shifting, two-headed beast with a grudge, especially against JJ and K, reaches Alpha's location to find that he is warning that the capsule is low on fuel and on a collision course. Alpha's master scheme: commandeer the taxis, a bioship buried under ice for decades, and use it to take over the galaxy. Two heads are better than one? Not when both are plotting galactic conquest. The idea of a bioship in dormancy beneath ice is borrowed from traditional lost technology under extreme environments, science fiction cliches. cliches. As J and K intervene, Alpha and Dak escape onto the bioship, triggering a huge avalanche. Jeebs, K, and Frank the Pug, who had been released beforehand by K, know Alpha intends to utilize plasma orbs to blast the ice cap, possibly flooding half the world, including all of South America's coffee beans. The bioship, Caraxis, has been in stasis for 40 years and must be given time to boot up. J and K board the vessel to avert a world disaster. Frank the Pug is saving the day. Only MIB can make a dog seem cooler than the agents at times. The Caraxis ship's 40-year stasis is a reference to lost alien spacecraft in science fiction, a theme common to MYB lore. Alpha plans to utilize the molecular accelerator, Mark III, to conquer galaxies, but J and K outwit the ship by pulling the plug on the central systems and sending a static pulse to the neuroelectric mainframe. Alpha and Dak are apprehended and brought back under MYB custody. The show concludes with high-tech heroics, glacial suspense, and that special MIB mix of humor and science fiction action. Season 3, Episode 3, The Puppy Love. This episode plunges into the crazy world of alien weapons smuggling, with J and K pursuing Zurat and his lackeys. The illicit item is the Apesian centripetal disc, an alien-looking gun that emits concentric rings of subatomic energy. Frank the Pug doubles as an informant for MYB, snooping around like the little furry voyeur he is. Chief Zed thinks Zurat is merely a puppet and wishes to get to the mastermind behind the plot. Only MIB would make a pug more suspicious than a suspicious alien. The Apesian centripetal disc is a made-up gadget riffing on atomic age sci-fi weapon designs, but played for laughs. Frank becomes acquainted with Veronica while working undercover as a publishing sales job at a cafe, and there is an instant attraction. Frank comes to realize that Zurat once had a partner in moving weapon. J and K, meanwhile, learn that Jeebs' store has been broken into by the biggest boss, Jeff Corustoaster. Veronica invites Frank on a date, and he is totally smitten. He takes advice from Jay on how to conduct himself on the date, being cautioned against drooling and swallowing, but otherwise left to his own devices to work out the goodnight kiss. Frank, caught between flirting and fieldwork, that's multitasking at its best. MIB frequently combines romance with espionage missions, a tribute to traditional double-life tropes in detective and sci-fi fiction. J and K join the Pazim's gang in a ceremony known as head jousting to move further towards the weapons smuggling racket. Frank takes Veronica to MIB headquarters, unwittingly breaching his cover. He lets her know that he's an MIB agent assigned to a gigantic smuggling case, and even takes her to the MIB vault housing top-of-the-line alien devices. However, Veronica isn't an ordinary fan. She is Javcor, working on a plan to steal the Papesian discs and other assets. Believing a date in MIB, that's like believing a raccoon with your supper. The vault cliché is a rip-off of old-school spy films where the hero's secrets are always on the verge of being exposed. Veronica attempts to persuade Frank to betray MIB and escape with her to a tropical island on stolen alien technology, but Frank demurs. She blackmails him into providing the vault access code, setting up J and K to perfection. They abduct Zurat and intercept Veronica, discovering Frank had been given a useless access code to keep MIB safe. Javcor is hauled to the pound, outwitted. Frank is devastated, but Kay reminds him that love makes you do strange things. Alien espionage and heartbreak, Frank truly deserves the title of MIB's cutest agent. Frank's character highlights MIB's humor and charisma, combining a working dog in high-level espionage, providing a unique comedic touch to the series. Season 3, Episode 4, The Lost Continent. The episode drops J and K into the depths of Area 117, a secretive underwater region historically referred to as Atlantis. MIB receives a panicky call from Agent C, who has lost his connection with the tourists in the region. To withstand the massive water pressure, J swallows an octudian nodule and at once has gills, webbed fingers, and super-sensitive water senses. He can even sense the stench of Kay's cheapo cologne a half-mile away. They find that worker drones reveal Zaran leader Quinton's major plot. Quinton has kidnapped the tourists as hostages to be used as leverage. Only MIB could turn swallowing a bizarre nodule into both a superpower and a laugh riot. The nodule idea of the Octudian refers to ancient sci-fi conventions when humans are granted aquatic powers through extraterrestrial technology. Quinton's final aim is chilling. He plans to resurrect Atlantis from the ocean, generating tidal waves that can destroy half of North America. He even attempts to kill Jay by slashing his air hose, but owing to his new gills, Jay is saved. Jay finds Kay imprisoned in Quinton's compound, and tension builds. It turns out that Agent C, the one who reported missing tourists, is a collaborator. C's doctored reports gave Quinton time to smuggle materials and lay out his disaster plan. Who knew tourism for Atlantis could be so lethal? MIB really cranks up the danger. The triumphant traitor storyline mirrors classic underwater adventure films updated with a modern sci-fi spin. Kay requires the access code to prevent the Atlantis elevator from causing catastrophic damage. When C refuses, Kay threatens to torpedo the entire superstructure with nukes. C relents, sharing the code, and J and K stop the catastrophe just in time. In spite of their triumph, Quinton gets away, leaving an ongoing threat in store for future episodes. There is nothing quite so heroic duo as rescuing half of a continent while bickering with a talkative traitor. The nukes as a bluff plot point underscores MIB's mix of comedy and action, combining tension and humor. And finally, the occasion presents a ridiculous surprise. Agent C, 2 years' worth of silence, can talk. He insists that he couldn't get a word in wise, and a comedic punchline is given to what otherwise had been a tense operation. J and K emerge as heroes. Tourists unharmed, but Atlantis and Quinton are still threatening and enigmatic. It's a great combination of underwater adventure, high-tech spy fare, and the offbeat humor only MIB can provide. The gills, sly betrayers, and tidal wave horrors, classic MIB, part action, part comedy, and completely unpredictable. Atlantis, in this episode, takes inspiration from mythical lost civilizations, but with a contemporary sci-fi twist, blending mythology, adventure, and alien technology. Season 3, Episode 5, The Way Out West. MIB, uncovering a huge problem near Phoenix, a metaphyte cocoon. And here's the thing, metaphytes aren't just aliens, they're basically living nuclear reactors. If anyone tries to destroy the cocoon, boom, instant nuclear explosion. So the only option is to deal with it at just the right moment in history. That's why K and J use the Coronite time jumper and shoot back to May 31st, 1869. At that time, the cocoon is stable enough for them to ionize without blowing up half the country. Who better to come up with a nuke-strength threat as a time cowboy, time travel episode alibi than MIB, Workplace of the Future? Seriously, metaphytes from MIB mythology were created as one of the most volatile alien races, time bombs in biological packaging. K warns J about Vinny's theorem of parallel time, which means if they don't succeed, Phoenix will melt in 26 minutes flat, no matter what century they're in. Talk about stress. Their main enemy is a Vexron, an alien drifter who feeds on radiation. This one is going by the name Diamondback Jack. His master plan? Bury the cocoon so it incubates for 130 years, then wake up just in time to fry Phoenix. Jay goes undercover as a Texas Ranger, and in true Jay fashion, jumps right into a gunfight to save someone from Jack. Jay in cowboy boots and a ranger hat? Someone needed to film that purely for the comedy. The Vexron was based on sci-fi villains of the nuclear age who lived on atomic power. Soon, J and K work out Jack's true nature, the Vexron in a human form. It all goes wrong as they are apprehended by Sheriff Virgil. Fortunately, Kay whips out not one, but two pre-planted get-out-of-jail-free cards. Yes, it is a thing. They escape jail, catch up with Jack, as he is searching for a new burial ground for the cocoon. Jay overpowers him and carbonizes Jack, literally burning him. With that out of the way, they ionize the cocoon and save Phoenix just in time. Only Kay would carry spare escape tricks in the 1800s. That's what I call planning ahead. May 31st, 1869 is one day after the Golden Spike marked the Transcontinental Railroad's completion. Jay and Kay find themselves messing around with history's most famous transportation landmark, and somehow their mayhem serves to help Sheriff Virgil bring the Wild West under control. They rescue Phoenix and even upgrade the Old West in the bargain. A great blend of vintage MIB strangeness and Western escapade, this episode is one of their most iconic time travel adventures. Returning to the Wild West to prevent an alien nuke and becoming home heroes is ultimate MIB. It is one of the very, very rare instances in the series where MIB literally alters human history rather than covering up.
In Victoria, he dead. The Emperor.
What?
Season 3, Episode 6, The Mine. MIB is informed that there are two bugs who have swiped human suits, and that is bad enough. But Jeeves, our go-to shady informant, drops the bombshell that they actually came for 3. Shortly thereafter, MIB stumbles upon a sticky clue: royal jelly residue. In the MIB universe, that can have one meaning. The bug queen has come, and she is going to the colony. Her selected nest? The evacuated Queen Victoria Hotel. Why do alien queens always go with dingy old buildings? Like, couldn't she lounge out in a Walmart storage room? Bees do produce something when they are trying to create new queens, but MIB just turns the fear intensity up to 11. For the queen to lay eggs, she requires 2 things: lots of sugar and lots of heat. Luckily for her, soda is everywhere, and the basement of the hotel is hot enough. Her goal? To lay enough eggs so that New York City is completely overrun with bug spawn. Meanwhile, back at MYB HQ, the Worm Emperor shows up. Hilariously, he's become an English guru after reading books on tapeworm. Only MIB would strike up that joke. An Emperor Worm reading English out of Parasite textbooks? Now that is hilarious. The Worm Emperor narrates with an over-the-top royal inflection, a parody of customary British monarchical cliches. Back to the breakdown. Kay concludes that the only means of preventing the Queen is to freeze the interior of the hotel. In essence, stick the whole operation on ice. However, there is one hitch with the Worm Guy's object, as frozen temperatures are deadly for their kind. It triggers one of those MIB value conflicts. Save the planet or save the worms? Kay devises a Trojan horse option, but it necessitates Jay saving the Worm Emperor first of all before the freezing. Kay is always the bright one with ideas, yet Jay is the one who ends up taking the risk. Typical partnership. Icing one's surroundings was an MIB signature technique even in the comics. It is one of their oldest monster handling techniques. Jay storms into the hotel basement to meet the Bug Queen. It's an epic confrontation. Eggs, flames, and gallons of soda abound. In the meantime, as Jay overpowers her, Kay activates the freeze programming. The entire establishment is converted into one giant icebox, stopping the eggs from hatching. Disaster averted, colonization thwarted, and New York City saved from becoming one giant bug colony. Jay battling it out with an alien queen in a furnace basement is like a thrown-away aliens scene played for laughs alone. There's no Queen Victoria Hotel, but its name borrows from the grand luxury hotels that abounded in New York City throughout the 19th century. Later, the Worm Emperor, now safe and secure, is requested by the Worm Guys for full-time coffee privileges as a reward. He turns them down, and the promised appreciation fest becomes a letdown. But hey, the planet is safe, the eggs are frozen, and MIB departs with another strange adventure recorded. Save the planet, get denied coffee. Seriously, that is the perfect MIB ending. The coffee craze of the Worm Guys is a running joke that is associated with nearly every episode in which they are.
Our hero, the old quick clone switcheroo You're the man, Jay. He likes us.
Season 3, Episode 7, The Bye-Bye Worm. This episode opens with chaos again, thanks to the worm guys. They're on reactor monitoring duty, only because Zurion called in sick. But instead of actually monitoring, they drain 6,000 gallons of coolant water just to make coffee percolate. Of course, that causes the reactor's internal temperatures to spike, putting MYB headquarters dangerously close to meltdown. Zed absolutely loses it. Furious, he orders the worm guys deported to TAC Hala, a dry planet with no worms and, worst of all, no coffee. Imagine nearly blowing up HQ because you wanted a better cup of coffee. That is the worm guys in a nutshell. The worm guys' coffee craze is based on actual tapeworm biology. They actually soak up nutrients incessantly, much as caffeine addicts do. But the worm guys are not going quietly. They whip out the MIB procedural manual and recite Chapter 8, Subsection 19, Paragraph 4, it's alien speak for I want a lawyer. What that really means is that they're entitled to a tribunal hearing before we deport them. Zed is indignant, but Jay is becoming suspicious. Why? Because the worm guys imbibed an embarrassing quantity of water even for coffee. The pieces don't fit together. Jay grilling the worm guys is like asking kids if they raided the cookie jar. Every no comes with an obvious giveaway. You can tell there's something more going on. A rare instance of the show satirizing MYB's Byzantine rules. Jay searches the site of the reactor. There he discovers a piece of rag with the scent of crude cleaning fluid. It is an unusual piece of evidence, but it leads him to the janitor, Zelgar. It seems Zelgar was nursing a lot of hatred. He was constantly teased and his ideas belittled by the staff, so now he is out for revenge. What is his plan of revenge? Nothing insignificant. A homemade black hole generator that will consume the whole planet. The janitor turned planet killer with one step. What an overreaction to office bullying. The concept of a black hole generator was taken from vintage MYB comic storylines in which day-to-day technologies were distorted as doomsday weapons. Things escalate quickly. Zelgar activates the black hole device, thrusting Jay into a fight to save the entire planet. To his surprise, the worm guys are actually agreeable rather than scurrying away. They divert Zelgar's attention long enough so that Jay is able to flip the polarity of the black hole. It's a dangerous tactic, but it pays off if the generator is disabled, and Earth is saved from becoming cosmic dust. Jay literally rewired a black hole without even thinking. Hand this man a fat bonus. It is an old science fiction cliché. Fans of Doctor Who will know it instantly. Back at HQ, Zed admits Jay went outside the lines, but saved the day in the end. Zed, rather than scolding the worm guys, removes the deportation order. In fact, he even brews coffee for the worm guys personally as an apology. And for the first time in history, the worm guys get their favourite cup without getting scolded. Seriously, watching Zed making coffee for the worm guys is comedy gold. He turned from frustrated boss to pressured barista. There is one of the very few moments where Zed gets genuinely affectionate with the worm guys, although in typical Zed fashion, it is mixed with heavy sarcasm.
Your domain. Sling.
Season 3, Episode 8, The Lights. The episode gets underway with a series of bizarre thefts. Rare materials are taken throughout the city: uranium rods, platinum tubing, magnetic locks, and even a laser guidance system. Jay is stumped, but Kay notices the connection. Someone is assembling a Zorsch graviton array, essentially a giant magnet that alters a planet's orbit irreparably. That is very, very bad on a cosmic scale. The thieves, an unknown alien society known as the Dark Honor, trust MIB to take missing parts and immediately connect them to planetary doom. That's why I'd fail this job. The Dark Honor are cartoon exclusives and never materialized in the films, so it is a fan favorite deep cut. The Dark Honor are tracked all the way to the moon. But things take a turn when Kay jumps in front of a blast meant for Jay, leaving him completely blind. Now, Jay has to depend on his partner's other heightened senses. To make things worse, the Dark Honor's plan is set. Use the array during the solar eclipse to lock the moon into permanent shadow. That would wipe out Earth's plants, animals, and basically everyone else. K, flying without seeing and yet still operating the mission. That man is cooler without his eyes than most heroes with perfect eyesight. K's blindness in this episode is one of the very few moments where he is physically weak, enhancing his resilient personality. Even injured, K demands to fly the shuttle down to the moon. Of course, the worm guys get on board as well, since they can't help themselves. Things go awry as they get coffee all over the controls, disabling the auto-navigation system. Now, K is down for a manual landing based on what he can hear with sonar beeps and his other indication of an echo return. He manages to pull it off somehow. Who but in MIB would coffee spill be a life and death emergency? The worm guys are at it again. The sonar landing scene is inspired by real blind pilot training exercises, though exaggerated for sci-fi drama. The action intensifies on the surface of the moon. Jay employs a solar pulse blaster that makes the shadow aliens blink out of their camouflage disguise. With the Dark Honor revealed, K instructs Jay that it's his job to deactivate the graviton array. Requiring him to restructure the array's crystal, one miscalculation might implode the whole moon, and the two agents with it. Jay, tampering with alien science that may explode the moon, compares with watching your buddy defuse a bomb with a YouTube tutorial. The Zorsch graviton array is one of the largest alien superweapons to date in an animated television series. Ultimately, Jay makes it work. He assembles the crystal in the proper configuration, deactivating the array and preventing cosmic disaster for Earth. K, behaving predictably in his blindness, gives credit for the work where credit is due, indicating just how much he relies upon his counterpart, the worm guys. They just shrug, sip their coffee, and pretend they didn't almost turn the ship into space junk. Jay saving the planet and K recklessly crash-landing a shuttle. This is buddy cop comedy and sci-fi par excellence. The episode is voted overall as one of the most suspenseful in the entire MIB cartoon series.
No traffic and none of that contraband. I was gonna do that.
Season 3, Episode 9, The Out to Pasture. The episode starts off with a surprise. Chief Zed suddenly announces that he is retiring. He jokingly attributes wear and tear on the old chassis, but it comes far too suddenly. In a shocker, Zed designates Agent K as his replacement. For an occasional moment of vulnerability, even Zed allows himself to be neuralized, erasing his memory of the agency he founded. For Jay, the final curtain call. But before anyone can even process the news, a disaster. Alpha, the brutish ex-agent turned rogue villain, breaks out of prison this time, covered in a new impenetrable exoskin that makes him almost unstoppable. Zed retiring? It's like MIB, but suitless. A crime against style. Alpha originally appeared in the MIB comics prior to appearing on the animated series, making him one of the longest-running franchise villains. In K's settling into his new role as chief, Jay is unexpectedly teamed with Agent L. Their first assignment as a duo is swiftly deadly when Alpha embeds a bomb within a disguised coffee machine. Within a black market scrambulan trigger, a weapon so powerful it can level entire city blocks. Jay is able to detonate it safely, but clearly Alpha isn't leveling damage. Alpha is shooting directly for the heart of MIB. Things only get worse from there when Alpha kidnaps Jay and strings him up with a Cronaxian brain probe. The equipment pulls secrets directly from the brain, and Alpha is specifically interested in finding out one thing: where Zed is. A coffee machine bomb. Now, I'll never look at my office break room the same way again. The Cronaxian brain probe is one of the rare gadgets in MIB lore that can bypass neuralizer defenses. Alpha's plan becomes clear if he can find the neuralized Zed. He can either destroy the agency once and for all, or seize control of it for himself. Jay is at the mercy of Alpha, feeding him dangerous intel unwillingly. But L, being a field agent at heart, steps in and rescues him. That is when she drops the bombshell. Zed's retirement was not really on the cards. It was all an elaborate scheme, a bogus retirement to entice Alpha out of hiding. Jay was left totally in the dark, his panic and confusion serving as Alpha's perfect source of raw intel. That is, Jay was the bait the whole time. Ouch, poor Jay. Try to picture finding that your boss planned to get you used as alien bait just to nab a bad guy. That's crushed morale, dude. This episode officially makes Elle a certified field agent, permanently joining the team. The season wraps up with Alpha throwing down against Zed himself. Alpha uses Tusion astral projection to split into multiple duplicates of himself, the result being that of an invincible army. But Zed, not being fooled by his supposed retirement, notices the trick. With quick thinking and years of expertise, he finds the real Alpha and puts him out of business for good. At last, Zed is where he belongs. And that's evidence that even retirement cannot keep a legend grounded. And Agent L, having proved herself, is the one chosen as the full-time addition to the team. Zed faking retirement just so he can take out Alpha on his own. That's the mic drop of the whole episode. This is Alpha's last major appearance in the animated series, closing his book as MIB's best rogue agent.
Hey, you shouldn't be here.
Season 3, Episode 10, The Sardines and Ice Cream. This episode opens with sheer pandemonium, and the Brooklyn Bridge just vanishes into thin air. The culprits? The F-Mechs, a goofy alien species with what can only be termed a short species complex. Basically, they're little, irritable, and making up for it in all the wrong ways. Using a shrink ray, they're pilfering New York landmarks like award badges, and their real motivation is to find the city's largest diamond. MIB goes into investigation mode immediately, although things go awry when Agent J develops a mean head cold. The F-Mechs are tiny tyrants and cosmic thieves all rolled into one. The premise of aliens stealing Earth landmarks with a shrink ray is really an homage to classic 1950s science fiction conventions. In a desperate bid to cure himself, Jay swallows what he thinks is a mega vitamin C capsule. But, turn of events, it's really a fertilized Babalot egg. Jay is officially pregnant with an alien fetus before he can even process what's going on. Agent L confirms the worst-case scenario. Jay has to carry the creature to term since extraction would be too dangerous. Jay's life from then on becomes a mockery of pregnancy symptoms. He suffers from mood swings, swelling ankles, and berserk appetites, all to prevent New York from slipping into anarchy. The F-Mechs, however, show no hesitation in their approach to the Brooklyn Bridge. They shrink the entire baseball stadium, and if that weren't enough to mar the day, the Statue of Liberty herself. Jay is whining about swelling ankles, while Lady Liberty's itty-bitty comedy gold. The Statue of Liberty has been the target of some MIB stories. This series just gave her miniaturized and stolen to add to her list. It only gets more frantic when Jay goes into labor in the middle of the mission, his contractions every 6 minutes apart. That's right, MIB's best agent is trying to give birth and save the city at the same time. Talk about multitasking. Meanwhile, Ellie boasts about her tech skills. She repurposes a Jasper extractor, a device that would otherwise be utilized in performing alien surgery, as a delivery tool. She also takes over the F-Mech's shrink ray. Through some quick engineering, she flips the polarity, restoring all the stolen landmarks to their former size. Suddenly, Lady Liberty, the baseball stadium, and the Brooklyn Bridge are back in their rightful places. Attempt to explain to the mayor, sorry, your landmarks were not kidnapped but temporarily shrunk by low self-esteem aliens. The Jasper extractor has been seen previously, early in the series, but is used here in one of its strangest, most improvised applications. And finally, the last moment of truth, Jay gives birth to baby Babalot unscathed. In the middle of all the pandemonium, he decides to christen the little monster J-Alot, a cheeky pun on his own nickname. The birth scene is both hilarious and wonderfully poignant. A brief respite where action is permitted to halt in order to afford Jay a glimpse of its gentler side. With the landmarks safely in hand and the F-Mechs defeated, MIB can at last take a breath. until the next intergalactic disaster strikes. Jay, as a new dad, never thought I'd ever see that day. The baby's name alone is reason enough to watch again. One of the only times in the series where Jay does form a connection with an alien instead of shooting it. Season 3, Episode 11, The I Want My Mummy. The show picks up with the somewhat literal result of a horror movie. An ancient Hyperion mummy, 5,000 years old, named Ramatap, escapes from a museum in a strange celestial conjunction. These Hyperions are not your run-of-the-mill bandages on thingy things. These are an alien species from the outer reaches of the universe, and one of them has a very specific purpose. Ramatap is after the scepter of Circlarian, a magical relic strong enough to unlock an interstellar gateway. And if that gateway unfolds, Earth will be flooded by Hyperions like an express lane into lunacy. Forget night at the museum. This is doomsday at the museum, and it's 10 times more terrifying. The Hyperions are a new invention for the animated series, taking elements of ancient legend and sci-fi space alien lore. To trace Ramatap, MIB employs infrared satellite images, and they observe the pod of the mummy moving toward Egypt and the Chops pyramid. This pyramid isn't just a tourist attraction. It's known as the gateway to evil. Apparently, Ramatap has a clue what he's doing, and if he gets there with the scepter, the world is in serious trouble. Happily, MIB has a bizarre ally this time, Frank the Pug. Frank explains that dogs practically controlled ancient Egypt, so he demands to be the house expert on all things pyramids and pharaohs. Kay and Jay, with Frank in tow, prepare for their most epic fight yet. Frank bragging that dogs ruled Egypt is gold comedy. Imagine school books rewritten with dachshunds building pyramids. Frank the Pug's ancient civilization gag. Never before had him mistaken for a king. When our heroes arrive in Egypt, chaos ensues. Frank gets mistaken for the legendary King Ramatap by adoring Hyperion fans. Things take a turn from funny to menacing when Frank is possessed by the real Ramatap. The wisecracking little pug now has access to the powers of an extraterrestrial mummy, and it's up to Kay and Jay to cut in before things get completely out of control. With the scepter of Circlarian in play, the stakes are astronomical. Ramatap doesn't just want power, he wants to rip open the interstellar gateway. Frank possessed by an alien king. That's nightmare fuel with a side of humour. This is one of the few episodes where Frank isn't just comic relief. He's right in the middle of the main conflict. Kay makes Jay remember a crucial rule. Interstellar gateways can't be bombed just on one side. They need to be closed off in the other. So they need a risky two-step strategy, coordinating across dimensions. Jay and Kay set up charges to create an explosive chain to collapse the gateway from both sides. The battle is intense, with Ramatap finding it hard to hold on to the scepter and unleash his army. Finally, Jay and Kay succeed in closing the gateway and stopping the Hyperion invasion. Ramatap is defeated, the scepter is deactivated, and Frank is ultimately freed of possession. Closing down a gateway to stop an alien invasion while your partner is a possessed pug. That's just another Tuesday for MIB. This one is commonly referred to as one of the series' darker storylines, striking a balance between true sci-fi horror and MIB's signature humor.
Made.
Season 3, Episode 12, The Baby K Syndrome. Ambassador XCon arrives on Earth with his daughter, Kima. She's young, curious, and bored already with MIB headquarters. She'd rather shop than hang out with secret agents. But Kima is not without a dire problem. Stellarians are not designed to survive Earth's atmosphere without an anti-aging serum spray. She'll age nearly a century in a single day on Earth. That makes her a human time bomb. And, just for good measure, radical Frostafarians kidnap her. Ambassador Scone doesn't take it well. He makes a cataclysmic attack threat if his daughter gets harmed, resorting to his worst and violent tendencies. No more frightening than a crazy dad, unless that crazy dad just so happens to be an alien ambassador who can destroy planets. The Frostafarians are an extraterrestrial cult, found only in the animated series, and their frozen theme is lampooning real cults. As MIB desperately attempts to rescue Kima, disaster ensues. Agent K accidentally steps on Kima's hypo spray. The serum was not meant for human use, and it has the opposite effect on him. He starts aging in reverse. L warns that K will literally hit preconception in an hour. Now, Jo has to lead the mission with Frank the Pug and Baby K. They follow Frank's gut feeling that the Frostafarians are hiding somewhere cold, leading them to a New Jersey ice cream factory. Baby K is still the most capable-bodied agent in the room. Completely ridiculous. K's becoming a baby is one of the few opportunities the show has to have some fun with de-aging. Blind panic sets in at the factory. Even as a baby, K's MIB reflexes are cutting edge. He's able to assist J by adjusting the LTD's controls like an old hand, but in a smaller package. They fight off the Frostafarians to the ground and save Kima before she is hurt by her father. In HQ, L reverses K to his normal age. J can't help but crack a joke, noting even as a baby, K was still a better agent. Baby chases kidnappers in a pug. This show fully embraces the comedy. Baby K Syndrome is a nod to the classic Baby Huey cartoons, combining slapstick and science fiction danger. Season 3, Episode 13, The Bad Doggy. This starts with MIB chasing a strange robot armor. They're affiliated with Arcade, a villain known as the Tungsten King. His new plan is grosser than gross. He's hijacking Frank the Pug, making him a host. Arcade calls Frank a rat and reveals his plan. Accelerate Earth's transformation into a tungsten colony. How? Poison food and pump basal plasm, a dirty bacterial slime, up through New York's sewers. Unchecked, Manhattan would be awash in glop in a month. Labeling Frank as a rat must be the cheapest con of all time. The best pug we've ever seen deserves so much better than that. Basal plasm may be fresh in the series, but it sure reminds us of actual world blooms of bacteria. But Arcade isn't waiting around. He decides to speed up the process using cloud seeding, creating bacterial rain that will get the job done in 20 minutes. And if life isn't terrible enough, Agent J has terrible allergies to the toxins. Based on his sneezing, J concludes that Frank isn't just sick, he's being possessed by a midget body snatcher. With time running out, the team comes up with a plan to eliminate Arcade. Jay's attacks of allergies are sad and humorous as well, all in the way of sneezing when the world is going to be covered in slime. This is one of the few episodes where Jay's physical weakness, allergies, is a part of the mystery solving. L provides K with an antibiotic dissolving agent strong enough to neutralize the slime. With the LTD, K hurls it across the city, reversing the disaster before it has a chance to get any bigger. The rain of bacteria stops, the slime disintegrates, and Arcade is driven from Frank's body. With the villain thwarted, MIB saves Manhattan once more. Frank, shaken but unharmed, lurches back with his trademark sarcasm. Give Frank a medal already. Between owning, insulting, and rescuing the city, he's running this show. The show smartly blends sci-fi with humor to critique pollution and food safety. Season 3, Episode 14, The J is for James. This one hits home emotionally. Jay takes the wheel of the LTD for a crazy joyride, and it doesn't turn out so well. The car suffers from a complete systems failure, and Zed comes down on him hard. Zed deems the act unpardonable, removes Jay from MIB, and neutralizes him. In an instant, Jay is James Darrell Edwards III again, an NYPD detective with no memory of his undercover life, going from saving the world every day to typing up police reports again. Brutal. The episode finally reveals Jay's complete civilian name on screen for the first time ever in the animated series. But Kay knows something's wrong. Aliens are fleeing Earth in droves, and James is dreaming about bugs and teeth. That's all the proof Zed needs that Jay still has useful information buried in his subconscious. Desperate, they restore him on an unorthodox basis. With a digitized receptor compound and hypnosis, Kay intrudes into James's mind to pull out what he knows. The answer is terrible. The Bug Queen is in a tunnel, planning her invasion. Only Jay managed to save the world while having been fired and brainwashed. Dedication pushed to a terrible extreme. The story returns to the bug invasion in the first M1B movie, so it feels like a spiritual sequel. It isn't long before things get heated up. Barging into a barge of sugar, typical bug behavior, verifies the tunnel as the site of invasion. James will not be denied from joining the team, claiming New York is his city. By his side is Kay, who is battling the Bug Queen, who is armed with heavy armor and a Venobian blowgun. But Kay tells Jay the real threat isn't the gun, it's the direction she's holding it. Jay seizes the moment, employing the powerful buzzard or cricket to eliminate her. Jay saves the world while in the midst of an identity crisis. Prime superhero fodder. The buzzard or cricket is a turbocharged version of Jay's original noisy cricket, and this episode is one of the few where it actually shows. At last, Jay has a decision: return to his life as a civilian or back to MYB. He instantly decides it's time to suit up in black. The show ends on a triumphant note, declaring that Jay was meant to wear the suit, whatever number of times it has been taken from him. This episode is basically MIB's version of Spider-Man's "with great power" moment, and it totally delivers. Fans often cite this episode as one of the best character arcs for Jay in the entire animated series.
Now congratulate Elle on her promotion.
Congratulations.
Season 4, Episode 1, Musical Chairs. The case is brought about with agents J and K arriving with extraterrestrial Yadivi for parking violations, showing everyone that one doesn't cross parking rules even out in space. Their tough methods, however, led to a complaint from Lyndon of the Alien Rights Commission against the MYB for the use of excessive force. To set things straight, Zed accedes to employing an alien peacekeeper as a field agent. Only MIB could turn a parking violation into an intergalactic HR complaint. This is the first time the show openly pokes fun at MYB's dependence on alien tech. Meanwhile, poor Agent L is frustrated. She's been begging for a field transfer, but instead, Zed hires Agent X, a flashy officer from the G-Dang galaxy. Elle feels totally overlooked. To get her chance, she suggests bringing in Dr. Zeltor, a legendary scientist, to replace her in the lab. Stamp of approval from Zed, and Elle's officially field ready. Elle's buzzing with excitement, but also throwing major him over me side eye. This is Zeltor's first appearance, and the fans enjoyed how quirky he was from the start. Meanwhile, that other drama unfolds, and MIB must contend with a new danger: the Baruga, an alien made of metal chomping through Manhattan's steel. Enter Dr. Zeltor, who introduces us to his gadgets, much to the horror of poor Jay. He also cuts into Jay's brain without his say-so, determining nerve damage from an old alien scrape. Classic Zeltor, genius and frightful simultaneously. Think of putting your brain in the hands of a man who approaches surgery as a science fair demonstration. The authors said Zeltor's frontal lobe fix was intended to satirize irresponsible sci-fi scientists, such as Doc Brown. The highlight occurs at a municipal pool, where the Baruga changes its diet from steel to water. Agent X tries to play a hero by using Elle as bait. Yikes! The mission is a success, but Elle cannot help but wonder if her field dream was worth it. Agent X putting Elle's life in danger? Sure, real hero material. This was the first episode suggesting that Agent X is not quite as reliable as he appears to be. S04E02, The Spectacle. The worm guys disappear in a coffee fight, leaving light years of trail behind. K and J track it throughout the galaxy, despite J's light travel angst. They arrive on Imperia, a planet centered around an artificial sun, and are welcomed as honored guests by Emperor Claudius. First with festivities and accolades, then thrust into gladiator combat. The worms abandoning HQ for a coffee fight, best worm behaved. Imperia's artificial sun was inspired by early Star Wars concept art. The surprise: the worms have been confused for Warp's mythical war hero and are pitched into the arena to fight the Prola, a fearsome gladiator monster. J and K infiltrate to save. Jay naturally attempts to rally a prison break with a speech about liberty, while Kay goes for the practical approach. Just pinch the worms and leave. Poor Jay, he winds up in enemy hands. Jay attempting union talks amid an arena brawl. Comedy goal. This episode cleverly satirizes gladiator and professional wrestling simultaneously. Believing Kay is dead, Jay pledges to avenge him. He's tossed into the arena, but pretends to have a grand battle with the worms to deceive everyone. Then Zap K re-emerges, having short-circuited the simulated sun to blind everyone out there. Together they save the worms, who promptly return to arguing over coffee. K somehow survives without a single explanation. Classic K chaos. Fans are still losing their minds over the infamous mystery survival scene.
Disguise!
Season 4, Episode 3, Back to School. Emperor Pla warns MIB about rebels targeting his son, Prince Rex, who's on Earth undercover as a student. Jay is assigned to protect him by blending in at Eisenhower High as Jay Evans. The catch? Jay is supposed not to draw attention. Yeah. Like that's ever worked. Jay undercover in high school is as chaotic as you'd expect. The school environment was based on a visit to an actual New York high school by the animators. Things go awry immediately. Principal Klein sees Jay, and the worm guys arrive disguised, claiming Rex as their cousin. Bullies, coffee fights, and science mishaps ensue. Even Kay arrives incognito in disguise as the replacement science teacher, correcting Jay on physics in public. Jay's cover fully disintegrates. Kay's in-classroom roast of Jay is as tough love as it gets. Mr. K's constant lectures on reflection and refraction became a joke, and he earned the reputation as Teacher K from fans. Shortly, student-disguised rebels kidnap Rex with a force field. Jay recalls Kay's science class uses reflection to deflect an energy blast, shattering the shield. The rebels are apprehended, and Rex is rescued. Jay is left having to do homework for Kay's homework and all. Jay rescuing student Rex with school science. That's Saturday morning cartoon magic. The worms helping Jay with homework became a fan-favorite gag in later episodes.
Now that you mention it...
Season 4, Episode 4, Opening Gambit. MIB investigates strange attacks on oil sites, matching a case from 30 years ago. That case was handled by none other than Alpha, the original MIB boss, who went rogue. To get answers, K and J visit him. Alpha is alive, but hooked to machines, still obsessed with chess. Alpha wielding chess as small talk is the creepiest flex of all time. Showrunners explained that Alpha's love for chess was inspired by the Silence of the Lambs. Alpha verifies a lethal photon emitter is at stake. Through ego games, J and K manipulate Alpha into admitting it was sold years before to a guy named Venus. Alpha continues to speak in terms of chess metaphor, referring to humans and aliens as pawns and kings. Jay knows Alpha is executing the Randallian Gambit, a plan of sacrifice for eventual victory. Trust Jay to turn alien war strategies into chess trash talk. The Randallian Gambit is actually based on an actual chess opening. Jay pushes further and foresees that the Ixians, oil-hungry, are going to strike Alaska. Alpha escapes, meets Venus, and confirms the deal. The Ixians get the oil, and Alpha rules over Earth. K and L take Venus, but J confronts Alpha in a last game. J triumphs, thwarting Alpha's instant scheme, although the invasion is postponed. J takes down Alpha with board games. Who needs firepower?
How'd you pull off that magic?
Season 4, Episode 5, Futures So Bright. The episode begins with a worm guy, a time-traveling prankster, employing a broken coronite time displacer to disrupt the time continuum. He announces his intention to establish a no-slime future, and the timeline is left in shambles. Agent J hops through the portal to thwart his plans, arriving in the future. Worms calling the shots on the timeline? Only MIB can render this both absurd and epic. The coronite time displacer is rooted in old science fiction time cube equipment that is volatile and deadly. Jay discovers New York as Worm Wonderland, MIB is erased for 100 years, and humans are all but extinct or enslaved in coffee plantations for the worm overlords. Frank the Pug, now 150 years old, commands a small human insurgency. The time-traveling worm guy has become the supreme worm, reigning over billions of worm minions. Frank the Pug, still kicking after 150 years, legend. Worm Wonderland pays homage to dystopian alternate futures in sci-fi, but with surreal MIB humor. Jay is taken by the worm troopers and sentenced to death. Fortunately, the great-grand wormies of the original worm guys, doing their ancestor wormies proud, aid him and Kay, coming from the future. Kay goes undercover into the former Guggenheim, now the Royal Palace, to save Jay. The Supreme Worm admits he expected Jay's meddling and laid a trap for the human insurgents. Guggenheim as a worm palace, ridiculously innovative. The Royal Palace backdrop nods to classic MIB-style normal place turned epic battleground. Employing master misdirection, Jay and Kay give the Supreme Worm a run for his money. Kay leads the minions away, while Jay manipulates the wormcast system into chaos. Kay deploys the time displacer to return them to the safety of the 21st century. The worm guys score free coffee as a reward, and the timeline is set straight. Free coffee for the worm guys, classic low-key MIB humor. The timeline restored through ingenious heroics is a sci-fi staple, but MIB subverts it with comical, absurd stakes. By the end, the episode combines time travel mayhem, alternate realities, and MIB's own outrageous humor, providing fans with an unforgettable ride. Season 4, Episode 6, The Loose Ball Foul. MIB finds a small planet named Thazia, stuck in a hard-shelled ball. Its sister planet, Phrazia, is freezing cold, while Thazia is on fire. Zeltor miniaturizes Agent K and an air conditioner using the Shrinkomatic and sends them to Thazia to stabilize the weather. Miniaturizing K and an AC unit? Classic, let's make things complicated for the fun of it, MIB style. Shrinkomatic's idea is based on old sci-fi miniaturization cliches of the 1960s. Meanwhile, the worm guys are playing a game of baseball on Thazia, utilizing the orb as the ball. Jay struts his stuff and hits it out of the ballpark. Zeltor threatens that Thazia will be destroyed in 82 minutes if the orb is not returned. Jay goes off to find it, knowing he can get in touch with Kay once discovered. Jay smashing into a planet like a baseball, only he could turn climate control into a sports game. MIB regularly combines mundane human activities, such as sports, with extraterrestrial, high-stakes missions for humans. The orb is stolen by a major of the Emperor, who has the intention to miniaturize themselves and reside on Thazia. Jay encounters the Major, but the orb is stolen again. Kay figures the planet will liquefy completely in 10 minutes. In a bold act, Kay activates the communit's auto-destruct, having craters that allow Jay to follow the Major. Jay finally retrieves the orb, restoring equilibrium to both Thazia and Phrazia. Planetary catastrophe averted through collaboration and innovative problem-solving. Love this combination of absurdity and heroism. The orbital recovery mission taps into traditional MIB, alien interference collides with human creativity storytelling. By the end, the episode combines time travel mayhem, alternate realities, and MIB's own outrageous humor, providing fans with an unforgettable ride. In the end, the planet's climate stabilize, and the worm guys resume playing baseball. The episode is an ideal blend of humor, collaboration, and high-stakes sci-fi adventure. Season 4, Episode 8, The Circus Parade. This one is sheer anarchy. MIB apprehends Zobo, an incessant gabbling alien from Fog, who was the key witness against a crime organization known as the Association. For his own safety, Zobo is sent into intergalactic witness protection and must depart Earth with the circus of the universe. Lucky Jay is saddled with serving as his bodyguard, though he despises circuses. Jay babysitting a yapper in a circus. That's torture masquerading as an assignment. Zobo's look and constant talking take cues from the classic snitch archetype in gangster films. Meanwhile, Association goons Big Izzy and Little Izzy corner Jebs, asking for disguises and guns. Sources indicate they are living large in overpriced hotel. At the circus, Jay and Zobo are coerced into a performance by the ringmaster. Jay catches Andre, the strong man, acting suspiciously. Kay reports in with disturbing news. The association has identified Zobo's whereabouts, and there's a mole within the circus. Kay dropping bad news while Jay's stuck clowning around. That's prime MIB timing. The circus setting is an homage to true-life witness protection tales, in which safe houses tended to be hiding in plain sight. Ringmaster is the mole, and the clowns are Big Izzy and Little Izzy in disguise. Jay arms himself with a weapon offered by Kay, and towards the end of the fight, he is shocked to find that Little Izzy is actually Wezzy, a clown whom he hated as a kid. Good old-fashioned twist. Zobo is escorted off Earth intact at the end. Jay's childhood clown nemesis turning out to be an alien mobster. That's both hilarious and tragic.
Know about the reserve weaponry chambers, do you?
Season 4, Episode 9, The Virtual Crossfire. Agent J detonates his sim training with a 67 in the virtual battle environment, VBE. Vice Consul Dino summons MIB security, and Lyndon of the Alien Rights Commission observes that the VBE biasedly portrays aliens as criminals. To set things right, Zed instructs Zeltor to tweak the program so it shows only actual alien offenders. Classic J bombing the test and creating a political headache in one move. The VBE itself was also partly inspired by the late 90s VR arcade phenomenon. K draws a fatal cube sold to a carbo, implying an assassination plot against Dino. J jumps in to protect him, chasing a prep into the VBE and accidentally getting trapped. Worse still, a bug causes virtual enemies to fire real ammunition. Jay must complete the game in order to survive. Jay is trapped in a game that can really kill him. That's gamer nightmare fuel. The killer glitch concept was inspired by Y2K panic-era fears of computers getting out of control. Zeltor is now Jay's mentor, guiding him through level 2 where he saves a two-headed cat. Now follows level 3, Zeltor's final battleground. An ambush level the scientist set up for himself. In a last gesture of altruism, Zeltor sacrifices his cybernetic state so Jay can obtain weapons and emerge alive. Jay accomplishes this, beats up thugs, and completes the sim with an 84, but continues to refer to the system as whack. Jay's mocking the game even after almost dying, pure sore loser vibes. This is one of the rare times Zeltor is portrayed as heroic instead of just eccentric.
You might be looking for me. Well.
Season 4, Episode 10, The Breaking News. Drex, a hostile alien K and J captured twice previously, breaks free from prison once more. To add fuel to the fire, a suave news team from the G-Dang galaxy arrives on MIBHQ, grounds to tape their reality show, Galaxy Guardians. Agent X, already a star on his home planet, sanctioned the entire affair. Zed, obviously irritated, makes K the profile subject. There's nothing that screams bad timing like a jailbreak and documentary people in your lobby. The fictional show Galaxy Guardians satirizes real-life reality TV cop shows from the late 90s. Drex invades Jebs' store, pulling his signature tire trick to weld the doors together. X and L arrive, but Drex captures X. He calls MIB, insisting that they exchange X for K in public at the World Trade Center observation deck. Zed opposes negotiating, but agrees to let K and J proceed reluctantly. Drex, on live TV, demanding a hostage exchange. That's hogging the limelight. Drex's obsession with TV ratings was inspired by pro-wrestling villains who enjoyed breaking the fourth wall. During the meeting, Drex becomes so caught up in maximizing his TV time that he alters his demands. Jay had really scheduled a decoy, going to the wrong building so he could sneak up and attack. He destroys Drex's weapon as K keeps him pinned. In the end, X is free, Drex is arrested again, and the news crew is grumbling about the so-called teamwork. Jay saves the day as X monopolizes the camera. The irony is delectable. This episode was the first to name the World Trade Center, specifically in a dramatic scene. Season 4, Episode 11, Zero to Superhero. It all starts with K and J pursuing an alien parasite that has been siphoning power from New York. Meanwhile, MIB takes care of that, and we are introduced to Harry Dribble, an illegal alien who is a school crossing guard. Tired of his low-key existence, Harry becomes superhero Cosmosis. Glenda, his partner, cautions him to keep below the radar, but Harry desires stardom. From crossing guard to wannabe Superman, Harry seemingly skipped the baby steps stage. Cosmosis's look pays tribute to classic Golden Age comic book heroes, cape, colour and all. Before long, Cosmosis is doing slick rescues and receiving public adoration. MIB is not happy, because if you market powers like his, reckless aliens are interested. To deal with it, Zeltor gives J genetic blueprints, switching him into Swiss Army Man mode for a while. Picture a superhero yodeler with a jetpack and gadgets that baffle even him. J as Swiss Army Man is a parody in a nutshell, half superhero, half comedy sketch. The Swiss Army Man costume was designed to be absurd, parodying super oversized 90s superheroes. Swiss Army Man is brought out in public to face off against Cosmosis, deflecting him before things get out of hand. But another alien opponent, a 24-win cutthroat with the planet's heroes, materializes. The battle goes wild, but due to his wacky gadgets and backup from K, Swiss Army Man emerges victorious. Cosmosis surprisingly saves him from the finishing blow. J is stumbling around technology, but is managing to get the victory. That sums up his entire personality as a whole. The cutscene had the voice actor who played an antagonist in Batman, the animated series. Finally, J steps in and stops Harry's Cosmosis act. Harry dodges prison, but is deported for being illegal. Glenda, true to form, accompanies him. MIB suggests that they return legally someday. J, still in Swiss Army Man mode, returns to HQ for debriefing. Deportation superhero ending. Cruel, but very MIB, bleak and funny at the same time. This episode has been called out as commentary on immigration cloaked in superhero satire. Season 4, Episode 12, The Endgame, Part 1. Things go epic. The Ixians broadcast a hologram announcing they're on the verge of invading Earth. Alpha, naturally, is yanking strings once more. He even released Vangus J's arch-rival on a technicality. Meanwhile, Zeltor's pet bacteria, Lucy, is behaving strangely, presaging doom. MIB sensors pick up a massive Ixian fleet approaching the Denuban cluster. Alpha is unleashing old foes like a villain all-star team. That's supervillain energy at its finest. The pet bacteria Lucy was supposed to be comic relief, but here serves to heighten tension. The Ixians use stealth orbs, camouflaged as meteors that destroy landmarks, such as the UN and the Washington Monument. Zed understands that the stakes are higher than MIB, and finally goes overt, informing the President of Aliens. Surprisingly, the President responds calmly, and even offers Pentagon resources and military aid. The President's stoic response? Either the chilliest commander-in-chief or just numbed to anarchy. The first time in the MIB series was officially revealed to American leadership. Meanwhile, Alpha taunts J, boasting that he's upgraded Earth's military with alien laser technology. J and Agent X engage in a dogfight with Ixian ships, and J rescues X by jettisoning 50 pounds of his mass. Alpha, however, informs Vangus that MIB HQ is the actual target. The Ixian mothership targets, and before people can move, the HQ is destroyed. Seeing MIB HQ get obliterated feels like watching your home base get wiped out in a video game. Atrocious. This HQ getting blown out by fans is usually compared to Star Wars, A New Hope. Death Star explosion. Zed activates Code 14, complete evacuation, just as the attack happens. The agents disperse as smoke billows above Manhattan, and it's obvious this is MIB's greatest threat ever. Season 4, Episode 13, The Endgame, Part 2. With HQ destroyed, MIB scrambles. The worm guys emerge from tunnels into a baseball stadium, organizing with other allies such as the Gangians. and the Alien Rights Commission. They all prepare for all-out war. Zelta reports to the president, grieving over MYB's lost arsenal. In desperation, the president sanctions the secret Staten Island project, old 60s missiles. Old Cold War missiles coming to the rescue of Earth. That is so human it hurts. The Staten Island project is a tongue-in-cheek reference to failed real-world defense projects. J and K follow Alpha to Flushing Stadium, his temporary headquarters. Alpha brags that Earth's military attacks are futile. His intention is to destroy Earth in its entirety for its oil reserves. However, when Allied alien troops destroy the Ixion fleet, Alpha shifts tactics, firing a Tenelic torpedo, the same weapon used to destroy Earth's second moon. A second moon for Earth. And it's just now coming up? That's a wild drop. The Tenelic torpedo is one of the most deadly alien weapons in MIB history. Alpha hints that the torpedo can't be cancelled, only dispersed, and only by himself. J goads him as a walking toolbox, challenging Alpha to attempt and fail. The torpedo hurtles towards Earth, forcing K and J to use their souped-up car headlights to deflect it. It detonates on the Ixion mothership, destroying the fleet. Can headlights really save the world? Preposterous, brilliant, completely MIB. It's still argued by fans whether the headlight trick was foreshadowed or improvised by the writers. J and K make it through the shockwave and crash land in Queens. Z neuralizes the globe, attributing the devastation to an asteroid. The worms and the like rebuild. J asks why K resists glory, but K reminds him MIB is not about fame, it's about the work. K's no glory attitude is the perfect conclusion. He's the ultimate behind-the-scenes hero. This written finale could serve as the ultimate series send-off, tying up Alpha's story once and for all. I think the show should have been more popular, but it kind of slipped under the radar. Do let me know in the comments below what you think of this unique series.